Hey there, guys, and welcome back to the Travis and Damian podcast, episode 164. You can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and more. Today, we're talking about the canceled Black Panther game, Spider-Man Brand New Day, our top 10 Nintendo Switch games, HBO's The Last of Us Season 2, and more. But as usual, we will begin with our recent activities, and I will begin first for once. I think we talked about it a few weeks ago when I talked about Sinners, and I was like, yeah, this movie's great. And they did the IMAX 70 millimeter re-release. So I went to the city, took a day trip there. I woke up at like 6 a.m. I got home around like 5 or whatever. Because I was like, afterwards, I was like walking around. I wanted to try Raising Cane's and check out Midtown Comics. Anyways, Sinners, IMAX 70 millimeter. It was just so freaking good. The fact that the movie was out for like a month, and during this re-release, the theater for a 10 a.m. showing was packed, just shows the effect that this movie has on like general audience and just pop culture in general. It is just such a great film, even though obviously I knew what was going to happen. This was my third time watching it. And I think that was a nice little cap off for me personally. When I watched it the first time, it was in standard. Then I saw it in IMAX, and now I saw it in IMAX 70 millimeter. It was just great. I'm probably going to buy this on physical when it actually comes out. And I don't remember the last time I did that, like day one, like buy a physical release of like a movie. I usually wait for like Black Friday and stuff. But I think that this is a movie that is really special to me. And I think really is like the best film of this year. And I honestly have no idea what will top it, like if any. So yeah, just a really, really great experience. And I had a lot of fun doing that. And then I just wanted to quickly talk about the Sonic X DC comic, because obviously this variant cover is dope. Sonic Adventure 2 inspired with the Flash, Batman, Sonic, and Shadow. Anyways, yeah, this crossover is still great. I think that if you love Sonic, you should definitely be reading this. And even if you don't know anything about Sonic, but you know things about the Justice League, Batman, Superman, whatever, this book does a surprisingly amazing job doing it. It is mostly the Sonic sort of comic crew making it. So Ian Flynn is the main writer. You got Adam Bryce Thomas drawing it. It is still great. They really know these characters, even though they haven't worked on any like Justice League books or anything like that. They understand the premise of like who Batman is, who Superman is, etc. So yeah, I just want to give that a quick little shout out and just quickly talk about the little bit of comic book news that's been going on. Peter David passing is such a tragedy, especially because I think for like the past couple of years, he's been battling health issues, and he had to do a GoFundMe because Marvel wouldn't pay him or whatever, just like comic writers and comic creatives in general, they don't get paid enough. So I think that this was a big like wake up call for a lot of people being like, hey, I think there should be certain things done to make sure that artists and creatives within that space are actually treated fairly. Because I know that there's been a lot of things that Marvel has done in the past, especially when it comes to like their writers and how they treat them and artists and everything like that. So, I just hope that moving forward that there's not another incident like this, because I think that Marvel definitely could have, I was just like brainstorming like in the back of my head, like they definitely could have made like some sort of like Peter David collection and then just have all of those like profits go to him or whatever. But then that would create like, I guess like this like business thing where it's like, oh, but like this other creative under Marvel is also going through like financial crisis. Should we do that for them as well? Then it creates like this cycle of like never ending books like that. Right. So, but I think Marvel, they have a fuck ton of money. They should have been able to help them. But Punisher miniseries, they are doing that. That's pretty cool. I think Punisher has not had a book in the comic sphere for a while. And then the big one was the Marvel and DC collaboration that they are coming back with new one-shots. The first one is Batman x Deadpool. So the Marvel side, the writer is Zeb Wells, and the DC side, the writer is Grant Morris. People are definitely more excited about the DC side of things because Grant Morrison is a legendary Batman writer, and you also have Dan Mora drawing it, who is like honestly one of the most overworked people within the comics industry. I see him fucking everywhere. He's on like cover artists for like this book, that book, and then he's doing interiors for this and that. I'm like, he does amazing work, mind you, but I'm just like, this guy's fucking everywhere. So I'm definitely excited to see how that collab goes, even though, I wish it was someone else other than Deadpool, because I think Deadpool is such like, I don't know. I think he's a little bit overrated in terms of like the Marvel sphere of things, even though I haven't read anything like Deadpool myself. I just know about like the recent Deadpool comics are just not that great compared to like what was done previously, but maybe that's just me hearing the wrong people or whatever. But last thing I've been doing is an actual video game. I have been playing TMNT Tactical Takedown. This is a new pseudo indie game with the Ninja Turtles license. This is a tactics RPG. Think of something like Fire Emblem or what have you, but with the Ninja Turtles. So it is $20. Right now it's on sale until the 5th of June for like 18, so like less than 20 after tax. It's pretty good. I only played 4.5 hours. I think I'm like literally right at the end. It's just that last, or like the second to last level that I'm on is like fucking hard. One thing I noticed very quickly is that this game does not hold back. So like I think on like the first or second level, I straight up died. You have 3 lives, but when you die, you die. You have to like restart everything. But it is pretty fun. The only downside for me personally, in terms of like what I was expecting, this is a Ninja Turtles game, so I was expecting to control multiple turtles within this, sort of tactics-based RPG or whatever. Yeah. But you only control one at a time, which is kind of disappointing. But that's each turtle has like their own sort of moveset and their sort of gimmicks or whatever. It's a lot of fun. I think Leonardo's like really, really broken because one of his abilities, when you take down a enemy, you get like a dodge, like a guaranteed dodge, and you could build that up. So if you're consistently defeating enemies with that move on like the last hit, you just get like 6 to 7 free dodges. And they throw a lot of enemies at you. This is another thing I don't like about the game, is that like you don't have to defeat all of the enemies, because the level sometimes, or a lot of the time I should say, just ends. Like it will just end, and then all of the enemies will disappear, then you'll move on to the next mission. So sometimes I'm like fucking stressed out. I'm like, God damn, I'm on like 2 HP, last life, what's going on? I finish my move, everything vanishes. I'm like, oh, okay. All right. So, I wish that there was just a little bit more of like a clear beginning, middle, and end kind of thing. But it is fun. The story is nothing necessarily to write home about. I think if you know about Ninja Turtles, you're pretty much going to get a Ninja Turtles story with them trying to stop Karai, in this case, from reviving Shredder. So, nothing out of the ordinary there. I think the writing's fine. There's no voice acting or anything like that. You can play with mouse and keyboard. I definitely don't recommend that. I played it with one level because as soon as I started, I played with the Xbox controller because I think that's what they recommend. So I was like, okay, let me go and try one level with mouse and keyboard, and it just doesn't feel as in tune when you're like switching to like the different moves and like also moving around at the same time. It just doesn't feel as great. But overall, for like a $20, sort of like little tactics based RPG or like tactics turn-based game, it's pretty fun. It's definitely not necessarily something that I would have seen coming from a TMNT game, but I am very happy with it so far.
Alrighty, so for me, I've been pretty busy the last 2 weeks, so I haven't really like played a bunch of stuff. Still just Expedition 33 and Doom: The Dark Ages. I'm at the end of Act 2 in Expedition 33, so there's one more act after that. And I know the world really opens up after that. You could, I think, get like a flying mount, so you could like go anywhere in the map and do a bunch of different side activities. So I'm almost up to that point, but that final boss of Act 2 is really hard. So I was like, I got up to it at like 11:30 like one night. I'm just like, all right, let me see if I can finish like Act 2 before I go to bed. I was just getting my ass kicked. I'm like, you know what, I'll do this later. So yeah, I would need to do that. But yeah, the game is still fantastic. I know the combat really opens up after you beat that Act 2 boss, because you could like unlock the damage cap, so you could like go past 9,999 damage, and then the game gets kind of crazy with the builds you could do. So I'm really excited about that. I'm still really enjoying the story, the dungeons, everything about that game has been top notch. Hopefully I could beat it by the end of for next podcast, so I could really like make a full like sort of discussion about it, because it is a really good game and obviously has been resonating with a bunch of people, myself included. I just sold like 3.3 million copies on like its 30th day or something. It like something crazy like that. It was all like a weird coincidence that all like lined up like that. So yeah, people have been really loving this game. I have been as well. So hopefully I could be there for next podcast or give like a full like sort of review of it. And Doom: The Dark Ages, I think this game has been getting a little shitted on by some people, which I mean, Eternal also got kind of shitted on by some people just because it's so different from previous Doom games. But I'm still really liking it a lot. Like yeah, like the mech levels and the dragon levels are like not super amazing, but there's still fun little distractions, and like the main core gameplay is still a ton of fun. Now that I've unlocked a lot more weapons, and a lot of them are like synergizing with the parry mechanic, it just makes the game flow super smooth. there's like this ball and chain gun that if you parry enemy projectiles, you get like sort of like an instant hit with it, because otherwise you would have to like charge up the gun to shoot the ball and chain. And it just flows this really fluid combat system that I love. Same thing with a rocket launcher. When you parry, you could like sort of like damage yourself with the splash damage, and instead of being damaged, you actually get healed instead. And I think things like that really help the gameplay loop of like you always want to be in their face, you always want to be meleeing people, you always want to be like parrying all their projectiles. You know, it's a very different Doom game. Like you don't really want to stay back, like you want to be up in their face. And I think it's still a ton of fun. I think the more open level design, like I like it, but I don't know if I like it more than the more structured linear levels, because they just are inherently like less interesting. Just because like they're more open and you could do more stuff, but like it just feels a bit more bland when just going through the level. So I'm like a little indifferent about the bigger levels, but overall I think Doom Dark Age is still like a ton of fucking fun. So I definitely recommend it on Game Pass. I know like $70, I think $70, for this game that's maybe like 20-ish hours might seem a bit much for some people, but Game Pass, it got you, so there you go. So that's what I've been doing. So, but yeah, hopefully I could beat these two games by the next podcast. I could sort of give my full thoughts about them. What I could give my full thoughts about is the fucking Lilo and Stitch remake. So I got tickets for this for free from work, and I'm just like, okay, I guess I'll watch it. It's fucking bad. So I'm like, all right. So I never watch any of these Disney live action remakes, because why would I? Like, most of the time they're bad, and like they are bad. But most of the time they're like in a way where it's like, oh, you just like point and laugh at it because it looks ugly or whatever. This one is like so much worse, because like it kind of just like destroys the whole message of the original movie. Like the Ohana means family and bullshit like that. Like none of that shit matters in this movie. Like Nani just gives up. There's like spoilers, by the way, but I don't care. Like Nani just gives up Lilo to like the CPS, and like, what the fuck are you doing? Like the whole original point of the movie was like not to leave your family behind. Why you're fucking leaving your family behind? Obviously they do this in a way it was like, oh, she leaves them with some relatives or whatever, and Nani goes to college or whatever. But I'm just like, I don't know. I feel like that just kind of undermines a lot like the original message of the movie being like this found family sort of thing. It was just a very nice message or whatever. Same thing with the main antagonist isn't the big shark guy anymore, Gantu. It's like Jumba, even though he was supposed to be like a good guy by the end of like the first movie, but now he's just like a bad guy, which is like also not great, because he was like the silly little alien uncle, bro. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? So I feel like a lot of the message of the movie being like this nice found family thing, like I just said, is kind of just lost, because like Disney decided to like make him like Jumbo the main villain, and then have Nani just kind of give Lilo to Child Protection Services. I'm like, what the fuck is this, bro? So I feel like it like completely undermines the message of the original movie, which was like, a really good movie. And after I watched this really bad remake, I watched the original again. I'm like, yeah, that shit's just so much better. I mean, like the animation, like the music, just the heart of it, these movies basically just exist to just sell merch. And it's like very apparent where like this movie is like, I think like 30 minutes longer than the original. It has like less to say. And like every scene they do just has like no fucking impacts like at all. Like I don't really like to use the word like soulless or slop or whatever, because they're kind of just meaningless words. But it really is just soulless slop. Like there's like nothing about it that has like any weight to it. It's like whoever made this like saw the original, took notes of like the big moments of the movie, and kind of just put them in like this live action remake, just like here's the big moments you remember, like here's like the funny little moments, haha, even though like it has like no like heart or intention of like what the original message was supposed to be. So yeah, this remake is fucking bad. Don't watch it. Luckily I basically watched it for free, so I didn't give them any money, and I was still mad. So yeah, definitely bad. I love the original Lilo and Stitch. That's like one of my favorite Disney movies. So yeah, definitely watch those. Watch like the fucking, even like the sequels are good too. And usually Disney sequels are like oh so bad, but Lilo and Stitch is a pretty good franchise. So yeah, just don't watch this remake. It's fucking bad. So there you go. All right, so next we can move on to news. So first thing with the news is about my favorite man, Randy Pitchford. So he recently made a statement about Borderlands 4 potentially costing $80. To be clear, we don't know yet how much this game is going to cost, but Randy Pitchford made a really funny comment saying, if you're a real fan, you'll find a way to make it happen. And basically his like original tweet is just like, oh, I bought like fucking Phantasy Star for like $80 in 1991 and I found a way. And I'm like, whatever, bro. Like obviously this is like horse shit. As someone that is a fan of Borderlands, and I am getting more excited for Borderlands 4 as I've seen more gameplay of it. Randy Pitchford has always been kind of like a piece of shit. Like he's always said like a lot of weird stuff. He's kind of just a weird dude in general. And this sort of like, I guess, blaming the consumer for not having the money to buy your like game that's not even like a necessity to life just feels like such a slap in the face. I think we made our stance clear about $80 games, how we just really don't like them. And like, I feel like a lot of people are going to have very high expectations for games now because they cost so much. Like, Mario Kart World is going to be one where maybe people don't judge it as harshly because a lot of people are getting it with the Switch too. But if you're just buying Mario Kart World off the shelf for $80, like I feel like people are going to be a lot more critical about the content that game is offering. I mean, even on Twitter, you see people say, "Oh, the game looks good," but like none of what I'm seeing is worth $80. And honestly, I would have to agree, right? Like I need to play Mario Kart World for myself, but games are going to have to be offering a lot more content and basically not be broken on release like every AAA game is. Just to be justified at $80, right? So this is a very like out of touch comment from Randy Pitchford, which isn't like shocking from him, but it just kind of speaks to the mentality of like where these like big CEO gaming company heads are at, right? They're just like, oh, like just find a fucking way to buy it, you stupid idiot. So I'm like, no. But yeah,
I mean,
this is a dumbass.
Yeah, I don't know much about Randy Pitchford. I read something about some USB drive, which may or may not be true.
Yep, magic tricks. Yeah,
not throwing that out there, but $80 video games are definitely something that we are going to have to get used to, unfortunately, even though $70 games they feel so recent, right? Even though 2020 was 5 years ago. The prices of everything are just going up, and obviously the amount of time that it takes to make these games is taking longer. And $80 games, I'm still, on the fence about. I think Mario Kart World will definitely be a benchmark. I feel like Nintendo has earned the trust for many consumers. And like I said last episode, what the fuck are you going to play on your Switch 2 if you don't get Mario Kart? Honestly, like, what are you going to play? Are you going to play some of your older Switch games just to see how those performances are good? But like, even then, why are you buying a Switch 2 to begin with then, in my opinion? I feel like you are buying it for the new hardware, for the new software that they're offering. And Mario Kart World is that launch title. So you're kind of forced to pay that $80 or get the bundle. As someone who is going to pay 80, close to 90 after tax, I will definitely have a much more honest opinion on that product once we talk about it next week.
You have the bundle, right? Yeah.
I purposely did not get the bundle because I am a physical gamer. I like to get my games physically, and Nintendo seems to be the only studio game developer, major game developer, that is still having their games physically on the product. It's not like a sort of glorified game key download with the disc, even though I still buy those because I'm just like, well, at least I could resell it if I want to, kind of thing, even though 9 times out of 10 I don't do that. But having that ownership of the product is still very important to me. But yeah, $80 games, and this comment just seems so out of left field. Him bringing up his own sort of experience about being, I had to buy Starflight for the Sega Genesis for $80 back in 1991. Okay, yeah, do you want your kids to fucking be doing the shit that you were doing when you were kids or whatever? I feel like, why are we regressing back in a way that, just like in general of like, why are we going back to the way video games were priced at back then, when at a certain point within gaming history, we reduced the prices of everything because of disc and all that other stuff. But now we're going back to that slowly, whether it's because of the actual cost of games going up or company greed, whatever it is. $80 games are going to be a new standard, and it's going to be very eye-opening when these developers decide we're going to charge it at a lower price, like $60 or even $50. So
and it kind of shows that a lot of games that have been at a lower price, so Expedition 33 and just recently, like yesterday, Elden Ring Night Rain, both of those games are about $40-$50, and they're selling like millions of copies, right? Like there has to be like a sort of like a ground where people just don't budge anymore, right? I mean, Doom the Dark Ages hasn't been selling super well because it was sold at a premium at $70, while all these other games are also just as good as that game is, but they're like priced at a more affordable rate. So I wonder if we are going to see more companies kind of take the plunge at being like at a discounted price nowadays, so they could like sort of like seem better value than they are or whatever. So it's gonna be interesting to see what happens so with game pricing and stuff, and how the AAA bubble is gonna burst or whatever. So I guess time will tell once we sort of like hit the next maybe generation of consoles, because like apparently they're going to be sooner than we think. So I guess we'll see.
Yeah, and the games industry keeps imploding on itself as we now have confirmation from EA that they have canceled the Black Panther video game alongside closing Cliffhanger games. So yeah, EA have been working on this Black Panther game for a few years now. They announced it formally, I forget exactly when, but now the game is no longer in development. And I think we talked about it a few episodes ago where EA are trying to consolidate to like Apex, Star Wars, and whatever else other like big money making thing that they have. And I guess they were like, well, a Black Panther video game isn't going to be that, so we're just going to cut that off. And yeah, that totally sucks, especially to these people who have been working on it for a while and to these developers and these creatives that now are out of a job. I do not see how the games industry can keep moving forward if all of these big companies and big studios keep closing down studios and letting off sort of team members and everything like that. You know, it just seems like, how is anyone even like our age at like 26, right? People that are trying to get into game development, how are they supposed to look at the games industry and be like, yeah, I want to be a game developer? I feel like there's a lot more indie developers coming up nowadays more than they did previously, just because they might see that as a better avenue than trying to break into the AAA video game market.
Yeah, like you said, like basically, like I feel like every studio just closes after either one failed game or even before then. There's a lot of companies like Cliffhanger rather, that just kind of implode even before any game is made, which is very unfair to them and kind of just seems like a huge waste of like resources in general. So, you know, I feel like there's gonna be a certain point where these companies just play it way too safe and maybe they charge their games way too much and people are just not going to budge. Like I've been saying, you know, we probably are going to see the rise of more AA games or maybe more affordable games where people just latch onto those more than these bigger, higher quality AAA games, because a lot of the time maybe they just like feel too safe or they feel too samey or they're just like broken and bad for the price value, and then everything just implodes on itself. And all these unfinished projects, I mean, even with Sony itself, you know, with Marathon, with Bungie, that's like kind of like imploding in on itself. Fair Games is also kind of like imploding in on itself. So I guess we'll see, but it really sucks that this Black Panther game is not moving forward, because, you know, I think you could have had a really cool Black Panther game, and apparently it was supposed to be this like open world action adventure game, and that sounded fun. And, you know, we don't really have a lot of reasons why they closed it. Maybe, you know, just for the cost. Maybe the character wasn't that popular. Maybe because of the Captain America Black Panther game that's also coming out and didn't want to compete with that. I don't really know. But either way, it does suck. Apparently, they are still working on their other Marvel projects. So, like the Iron Man game they're still making by Motive. And I believe there's some other Marvel game they were making. So, apparently, those are still in the pipeline. But, I feel like those games are also in jeopardy if this is of any indication. Mostly because I feel like the Marvel branding hasn't been particularly strong over the last few years. It's been coming back, but I feel like people have been a little burnt from the recent MCU stuff. So, sucks for these developers. Hopefully, they could get another job somewhere else. But you can only say that so many times when like every AAA company is like imploding. Like I said, it just becomes really disheartening.
Yeah.
All right, so next we got something funny. So Yuri Lowenthal is seemingly confirmed Persona 4 remake is happening. He basically did a thing on Blue Sky being like, I was not recasted for Yosuke, which was one of the main party members for Persona 4. And he was like, I was begging for it and they didn't want me to come back. And then after he made this statement, he deleted that Blue Sky post. But then the two other party members, I forget their names, but Chie and... I forget her. Oh, Yukiko, there you go. I don't know what the actual, what the actors' names are. I remember the party members' names, but they also came forward and be like, yeah, they also didn't access to reprise our roles. So Persona 4 Remake is very kind of like an open secret. Like everyone knows it's happening at this point, and they probably are going to announce it in the Summer Game Fest next week. So this is just kind of a funny way to like really confirm that it is happening. And I don't know why Atlas can't get a break with this. Like they always like leak their own stuff. Like it's never even like a leaker. Like it's always like themselves, either like actors or like they post like an unlisted video by accident with Persona 3 Reload. That happened. So I mean, I'm excited for Persona 4 Remake. I do wish we got Persona 6 before this. I was kind of hoping that, Persona 3 really, I personally think it needed a remake, and I'm happy we got it because Reload was awesome. Persona 4, though, I feel like it's a very good as it is. Like Persona 4 Golden, you can play it anywhere now, and I think that game is basically like as modern Persona as you could get besides Persona 5. So, like, I think it's fine. But I won't complain about a remake, but it is weird just doing it so soon after 3 Reload. Like, I would have liked Persona 6 at this point, but I'm not complaining. I also think it's good to have like newer talent to voice, like new characters. They did it with Persona 3 Reload. Like all the main party members are not the same voice actors from the older games, and they probably want to do the same thing with this. So just have fresh talent. And if the Persona 3 casting was of any indication, I think the new voice actors of Persona 4 would be pretty good as well. It's going to be hard because there was a lot of big name voice actors like in Persona 4. So we'll see. Like a lot of people, like Laura Bailey and Yuri Lowenthal. Like, there was like a lot of big names in Persona 4 original. So we'll see if they could fit those shoes pretty well. But it's also another reason why Atlas probably isn't rehiring them, because they're probably expensive as fuck now. So like, fuck that. So either way, I'm still excited for it. It sucks that we're not getting, these fan favorite roles, because, when I think of Persona 4, I always hear Yuri Lowenthal as Yosuke. It's kind of just his normal voice, so he's just used to hearing that. But I guess we'll see how they go. With Persona 3 Reload, it did sort of cast these other older party members as side characters, just to have fun little Easter eggs. So I'm hoping to do the same thing with this game, but I guess we'll see once they formally announce it, and probably Summer Game Fest. So, next week we'll see it. So yeah.
Yeah, just going on Twitter and just seeing everyone just screenshot Yuri Lowenthal's Blue Sky post. That was just very amusing, very funny. But yeah, it just seems like Alice cannot catch a break. And the Persona remake train is continuing to move on. I have yet to play any Persona games, even though I really want to. Just at the 100-hour marker for pretty much any one of them is a little daunting for me personally.
It's really long.
But definitely one day when I have the time, I will definitely try to get into one of them, probably Persona 5 first, and then I'll work my way through the remake slowly. But yeah, now let's talk about some entertainment news. Paramount has pushed back Aang, The Last Airbender, and TMNT Mutant Mayhem 2. They have pushed them back by release dates. So the Avatar film was supposed to come out on June 30th, 2026, but it has now been pushed back to October 9th, 2026. Mutant Mayhem sequel was supposed to actually be on October 9th, 2026. They pushed it back almost a year to September 17th, 2027. So yeah, as someone who loves the Mutant Mayhem film, that was such a great sort of take on the Ninja Turtles, and also another film that has been inspired by the Spider-Verse films in terms of animation. I am definitely disappointed to see that it is going to take longer, but hey, it is not easy to make animated films like that, whether they are 2D animated or 3D animated, just to make them look as stylized as they are. You know what? Take your goddamn time. It is definitely going to be a while until we get that film, but when it does come out, I will be there. Same thing with the Avatar film. I'm sure they're doing some crazy, insane stuff, especially because this is going to be the first big major Avatar project in animation since Korra, I would say. So, if they want it to come back, especially it be a film and to sell tickets, they want to make sure they get it right. So yeah, it sucks that it is being delayed from late January to early October, but I'm sure when these films are finished and complete, they will be successful.
Yeah, I still need to watch Mutant Mayhem because, I haven't done that yet. I really should. But, as long as they take the time and make it as good as they could be, that's all I could ask for. These, I know, especially with this sort of newer animation style that a lot of these companies are using, the more Spider-Verse-y style. I know that seems a lot more taxing for animators, but the end result is so good. So, but you could tell, I don't think a lot of these animation studios are ready to be okay, yeah, this shit's going to take a while now. So, yeah. But again, I think the end result always looks beautiful and amazing. Just don't kill the animators, please, because there was so many bad stories about Across the Spider-Verse that I don't really want it to repeat again. So hopefully these companies just take their time. People are going to watch it regardless, and just make them the best they could be. And we'll be there. We'll be there, even though it wasn't for the original, but we'll be there. So yeah. All right, so next we got some Marvel stuff. So we got a lot of stuff for Spider-Man Brand New Day. So we got a lot of villain sort of not confirmations, but rumors. We don't know if this is true necessarily.
Yeah.
But we got Scorpion, Boomerang, and Tombstone are going to appear as villains. Or having a lot of people right there. And apparently Mr. Negative is supposed to be sort of the main villain of the movie. Right now, Steven Yeun is supposed to be the Mr. Negative, but we don't really know. Again, take everything we're saying with a grain of salt, please. It's none of this is confirmed. This is all just rumors right now. Daniel Wu is also a front runner, which is he's the nationalities for this stuff is kind of weird because it's Steven Yeun is Korean and Martin Lee is Chinese, but then you have he's also Taiwanese in some continuities or something. It's weird. So I don't really know what they're gonna do with that. But I'm sure like for most people, it's like, oh, he's Asian, so it's like who cares, right? Like, but like I can already know if you were gonna say that, but obviously that stuff matters, and they tried their best to sort of match the nationality for the source material and the actor. So I guess we'll see what they do with that. And, this basically confirms that it is going to be a street level Spider-Man movie, hopefully. A lot of these villains are very like not, like world-ending threats or whatever. Like it does seem very like street level, which is great. And I guess another rumor that's been also circling around is that Mark Ruffalo is also set to return as Bruce Banner for this movie, and is apparently supposed to be more of a substantial role than just a cameo. Hulk usually appears in other people's movies because Marvel can't really make a solo Hulk movie because of like weird licensing stuff with Universal. So usually people like piggyback, like Thor Ragnarok, he was in a big part of that. So and I feel like he was in something else that
She-Hulk.
Like, he also She-Hulk as well. So usually he would piggyback off other stuff, and Spider-Man seems like the next thing here. Obviously we would love it if it was Daredevil, but it looks like he's going to be doing his own thing. I mean, who knows? It could still happen because this seems like a perfect movie for him to just show up at least once, like be like, hey, I'm Charlie Cox, like
hey,
like,
maybe post-credit scene, who knows,
Yeah, it could be. This does seem really exciting news if all this is true. Again, all this is just rumor at the moment, but it does seem like they have reworked the movie to be a street level Spider-Man movie instead of like another multiverse like shenanigans, which wouldn't even make sense, to be honest. So I'm glad to start keeping it street level and have Spider-Man back to being like, more in line with what people think of Spider-Man, right? I think there was even like sort of leaked art about what his new suit would look like, which looks a lot more, like his classic looking suit. So
I think that's just some like stock image that they have right now.
That's what I'm saying. So like, everything you see right now or we're talking about is just rumors and just speculation and just what people are saying, but it has been circling around quite a bit. So we thought it would be good to mention it. So Spider-Man Brand New Day, obviously people have their fucking eyes on this film because it has been a while since Tom Holland has put the suit on and we've seen a live action version of Spider-Man on the big screen. So, with the whole Marvel and Sony deal, I'm sure they're trying to figure out the details of this. But if it is true that we got Scorpion, Boomerang, and Tombstone as villains, I think that is such a fantastic trio. Just having all of these street level villains come back into Peter's life now that he has no one in this world to really be there for him. No one knows who Peter Parker is. Obviously, people know who Spider-Man is, but I wonder how that balance is going to play into it. Martin Lee, obviously another more recent villain thanks to the Spider-Man video games from Insomniac. His prominence within mainstream Spider-Man culture and just like in general has been so much more prevalent. I mean, he's even in the Ultimate Spider-Man comic, which I did not expect, but I was like, hey, you know what? That's cool. He's part of the Sinister Six. But yeah, I mean, whoever plays this character, honestly, I love Stephen Young. I know that he was supposed to be Bob within Thunderbolts, but he pulled out of it due to scheduling with, I believe it was Mickey 17 or whatever. So he was like, I will come back to Marvel. Do I want him to come back for this role? Not necessarily. I think maybe another Asian actor should sort of take it on just because, he's definitely probably one of the biggest ones in Hollywood. I think giving another actor that chance and that opportunity to play this character would be pretty cool. But he is a Chinese character, so I think a Chinese American actor playing him, or anyone of Chinese descent, should be reasonable. I would say it's not that hard to find a Chinese actor that's willing to play a role as big as this one. But yeah, a street level Spider-Man movie, and then we got Mark Ruffalo in there. Just fuck it. We'll just throw Bruce Banner in there. I think this is because Marvel Studios has like probably some sort of clause where they're like, we need a Marvel MCU character in there. That's why Homecoming we had Iron Man. Within Far From Home we had Nick Fury, and then within freaking No Way Home we had pretty much everyone. Charlie Cox was in there. I guess maybe he was that character. I don't know, but it was just like a hodgepodge of everything mixed in, right? So for Doctor Strange was in there, so yeah.
Yes, Doctor Strange. Yeah. Doctor Strange is probably the character that they used for that. But yeah, for this film, it's probably going to be Bruce Banner if that clause is true. And I wouldn't mind it. I think there was some sort of comic panel. I don't know if this was true, but it's like, Hulk never forgets. Bruce Banner forgot, but Hulk never forgets kind of thing. So maybe that could lead into, sort of Hulk being the only person that remembers that Peter Parker is Spider-Man kind of thing. But, whatever direction that they decide to go in within this character and adding him into the Spider-Man movie, I'm down for. I just hope that it doesn't overshadow Peter's story, which it probably won't. We've seen it time and time again between the other 3 films that their additions of those MCU characters didn't overshadow what Tom Holland's Peter story was. But I'm excited to see what this film actually turns out to be because, there's just fucking rumors and everything going around for this film because nothing can ever stay fucking lock and key for Marvel.
No.
And speaking of Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars has been delayed. There was some random ass TikToker that also snuck on set, which he really didn't get much, but he snuck on set, which was kind of crazy. But anyways, Doomsday and Secret Wars have been delayed from their initial dates. So originally, Doomsday was supposed to release on May 1st, 2026. It is now delayed to later in the year on December 18th, a 7-month delay, alongside Secret Wars, another 7-month delay from May 7th, 2027 to now December 17th, 2027. I think Spider-Man Brand New Day will maintain its July 31st, 2026 date. So now it will take place before Doomsday, which makes the street level Spider-Man story a lot easier to do. And people are theorizing why they're delaying it. Obviously, they're fucking filming it now, so that's probably why they're like, wait a second, we need more time. But also, if they want Tom Holland in there, Tom Holland, he's obviously a big Hollywood moneymaker, even though he's not in a lot of stuff these days. His name and sort of his notoriety is very strong, and his Spider-Man is also a huge moneymaker. So they can't have Doomsday without him. So that's probably another reason why they delayed it, to just make sure that he's actually in the suit and that he's actually there on set and not doing like this weird ADR thing with like another actor playing the role, which could probably work. But I think they might want to do some other stuff with his character and actually want Tom on set, because I think that just makes the performances and all of the actors more comfortable with working with him, especially because he's part of the fucking Marvel family, and getting another Avengers film like this, especially after Endgame and everything like that, I think it's important to have the actors on set and all that other stuff. But I think a delay is good, especially considering that they are filming it right now. More time to make sure that they don't flub this up.
Yeah, I was like, there's no way this movie comes out as soon as it does. Like, they were like, oh yeah, we just got the casting and the script done, and we're like just filming now. I'm like, and like post-production takes forever. I'm like, there's no way this is gonna come out in its like intended release date. So I'm happy they did delay it so they could like take the time again to make it as good as it could be. Honestly, even then, it still feels like it's gonna be kind of rushed. So it's gonna be cutting it close for the initial release dates, but. I'm happy they did decide to delay it because there was no fucking way this was going to get done on time. So, I think Marvel really knows these movies have to be bangers, and I think they've been doing a pretty good job. Thunderbolts I really enjoyed. Fantastic Four is looking really good. All this news about Spider-Man Brand New Day is getting me excited. Even if it's just rumors, I'm like, okay, I like where it's going maybe. And with the 2 Avengers movies, like they kind of need them to be big deals again, right? Like Marvel really can't afford to have like a flub up at the moment, and I think they know that. So I'm happy they decide to delay it because having a rushed Marvel movie isn't going to do anyone any favors. Like just take your time and just release it when it's ready, so people have more faith in the MCU and get excited for the like sort of like the next couple of arcs, right? So I think this is the smartest thing they could have done.
Mm-hmm. And it is going to suck that we're going to watch Fantastic Four next month, and then we're gonna have to wait well over a year into Doomsday, which I think is fine because next year we're still getting, as long as everything lines up, Spider-Man Brand New Day. Spider-Man Brand New Day still maintains its July 31st, 2026 release date, so that should still be fun, still exciting to wait for that. But I just hope that it's good, especially considering they got Robert Downey Jr. playing Doom and everything like that. Anyways.
Yeah,
let's talk about our top 10 Nintendo Switch games with the Switch 2. Literally next week, by this time, we will probably have a few hours into Mario Kart World, but let's talk about the Switch and just our thoughts on the console in and of itself. It's been so fucking long since this console has come out and been in the cycle of console generations. It was there when the fucking PS4 was still like the new PlayStation console. Right now, we're like 5 years into the fucking PS5, right? So
crazy.
It is an insane lifespan to have for a console. But you know what? I think that it was well worth it, considering Nintendo really did get its mileage out of it. Despite it being underpowered, it was still able to pump out powerhouses like Pikmin 4, Mario Wonder, even at the end of its lifespan, Mario and Luigi Brothership, even though that game was a little buggy. There's so many great titles on here, and I still remember pre-ordering the original Switch. It wasn't that hard because everyone was like, the fucking Wii U bound, what the fuck is this Switch gonna do?
Yeah.
But now obviously with the Switch 2, everyone's fucking gunning for it. So it is nice to see Nintendo back on top, but then again, it is sort of the cascading effects of them being like, all right, $80 games and all of this other maybe not so friendly consumer models that they're doing with the pricing and whatnot. But I think the Switch 2 console is still fairly priced. I just think the $80 games is a little bogus. But yeah, it is nice to see Nintendo win, but we'll see for how long before their cockiness and business sort of mindset gets in the way.
Yeah. Because, whenever Nintendo gets on top, they get really annoying about it, which I think is what really helped the Switch become as good as it was. I mean, this thing has been for 8 years already. 2017, this console came out. And, I still remember really vividly getting the console. That was right after the Wii U. And I really didn't play a ton of the Wii U after a certain point because I'm just whatever, bro. This thing kind of sucks. So yeah. I got the Switch just because I'm well, it's a new Nintendo console. I kind of got to have it. And, I basically fell in love with it immediately. I still remember getting it, and then we played fucking snipper clips and went to Switch, and I was playing Zelda. It's still really fresh in my mind when this console came out because 8 years ago doesn't feel like too long, but it was quite a while ago. So kind of crazy to think about how many games have come out in its lifespan compared to any other console, even other previous Nintendo consoles or the fucking PS5, which really doesn't have a lot compared to the Switch.
Yeah.
And there was so many games I want to fit on here, but I'm pretty happy with where I ended up. I do kind of want to I have my top 10 games, but I also have just some 5 games that I kind of want to fit. We have a one franchise per rule thing, so just put any extra games on here. So yeah. I have Pokemon Legends Arceus and Pokemon Scarlet. I was really debating if to even put Arceus on my top 10, but then I remember Splatoon 2, and then I knocked it down a peg because I think Splatoon 2 is really good. So yeah. Legends Arceus is unironically a very good game. Obviously it runs ass, same thing with Scarlet and Violet, but I unironically love these two games. I think they're one of my favorite Pokemon games, especially Legends Arceus. It's very good. Xenoblade 2, obviously I think Xenoblade 3 is better, but I fucking love Xenoblade 2 no matter what anyone says. I love that game to pieces. Fire Emblem Engage, I also have it on here. I have Fire Emblem 3 Houses up here as well. I think that game is just the better Fire Emblem of the two, but Engage is still fucking fantastic. And then Echoes of Wisdom was another game I kind of wanted to fit in the top 10, but I just couldn't really find a space for it. So ended up over here in my, sort of honorable mentions. But there's so many other games that I really wanted to talk about. Travis has some of them on his list, but, it really goes to show you how amazing of a console the Switch was, because I don't have any of the remakes on here really. I don't have Mario RPG remake, I don't have like Thousand Year Door or whatever the fuck else, the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon remake. There's just so many games on here, but yeah, I guess we could just start with
we'll just start from the top and just list them down just for the audio listeners out there. So my top 10, going from number 10 to 1, I got Ring Fit Adventure, WarioWare Get It Together, Mario and Luigi Brothership, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Animal Crossing New Horizons, Super Mario Odyssey, Splatoon 2, Mario Brothers Wonder, and my number 1 pick is Pikmin 4.
Yeah, and for me, I have my number 10 being Kirby and the Forgotten Land, number 9, Splatoon 2, number 8, Mario Wonder, number 7, Pikmin 4, number 6, Metroid Dread, number 5, Fire Emblem 3 Houses, number 4, Super Mario Odyssey, number 3, Smash Bros. Ultimate, number 2, Xenoblade Chronicles 3, and then number 1, Tears of the Kingdom.
So yeah, just to start off, I just want to say, Damian, good job. You have a nice variety of games here. As I was making my list, I was like, shit, I'm fucked. Because I realized, a lot of these games like Metroid Dread, Kirby, I played those, but I never finished them,
Right.
So I can't really put them on this list without feeling like a fraud, if you will. So, there's definitely a lot of Switch games that I have in my collection. I have a ton of fucking Switch games that I have yet to fully play and finish, and Kirby and Metroid are just the tip of the iceberg, if you will. But yeah, I guess we'll start with our respective number 10s. I mean, Ring Fit Adventure, it sounds fucking goofy. It sounds stupid. Look, I will never forget when I went to Genesis in California with Kofi, and he brought his whole fucking Ring Fit setup with him. And I was like, I don't know what the fuck we're doing. We could have just done this at home, but whatever. He brought it on him with the flight. So we played. I'm like, yo, wait, this shit kind of goes crazy. It's a nice workout. You break a nice sweat. It's definitely not a replacement for the gym, but it's a nice sort of like supplement. Like if you can't go out for the gym or maybe if you're not feeling it that day, it's a nice little workout. You could break a sweat. I definitely need to get back on that. I mean, personally, I am just going to the gym just like in general a little bit more often. But, Ring Fit Adventure, I think, is a nice, fun way to get into exercise and just, make working out kind of fun, just like gamify it in a sense. So, yeah.
No, it is a good pick. Like, I know a lot of people have put a ton of time into Ring Fit, and it has like really pushed people into exercise because it's like a fun, like casual way to do it. Well, gamify it a bit, have some fun with it, and like lose some weight, right? So, I played a bit of it as well, and I did really enjoy it. Like, I think it is a great way to sort of lose weight, do some exercise while like having some fun, right? But for me, I have Kirby and Forgotten Land at my number 10 spot. Honestly, like all these games are like really hard to like serve. Like I think my top 5 are pretty solid, but my bottom 5 are like, they could be basically in any order. So I kind of just put them wherever. But yeah, Kirby and Forgotten Land is fantastic. I thought it was a great way to translate Kirby into 3D. Like it basically feels like really effortlessly like how they've done it. Like, we've gotten 2D Kirby games for like fucking ever, and now finally getting a 3D Kirby game that feels this good. Honestly is like very impressive. Like obviously it's not like fully 3D. It kind of plays like a Mario 3D World or whatever, where it's like kind of like these structured levels with different camera angles and stuff. But the intent of having like a 3D Kirby game is still definitely there. And I think all the set pieces were a ton of fun. All the copy abilities translated super well into 3D. I personally love Tornado a lot because you could just like go through the whole level and just like get everything with your Tornado ability. It was just a really fun time. And I'm really excited to gain extra content with the Switch 2 version that's coming out like I think in August or whatever. So I'm really excited to sort of like replay this game with like 60 frames and all that beautiful Switch 2 stuff. So definitely a fantastic game, and I'm happy how I was able to really translate Kirby well into a 3D space. So yeah, Kirby always stays winning. So there you
go. From the bit that I did play of Kirby and the Forgotten Lands, and I played it with multiplayer, and for the most part, I was playing as the fucking Waddle Dee, so I can't really comment on the copy abilities because my girlfriend wanted to play Kirby. But yeah, I mean, it is pretty much what you would expect from a 3D Kirby game. That's all I can really say. Next up I got is WarioWare Get It Together. So this is another game that I played when it came out. I think we were at like Riptide, another Smash sort of tournament. This was, I think, right after the pandemic. So Kofi just bought it and I was like, hey, let's fucking see what this shit's about. And it was a lot of fun. I even bought it myself once we got back home because I was like, I kind of want to play the mini games, see how good I could do. I think there's like a marathon mode that you could just do to just like endlessly play these mini games over and over again. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. I think that, for like the WarioWare franchise, I think for the most part, the recent games have been kind of hit or miss. But this one was definitely like a really solid entry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Like Get It Together was super fun. Like I personally really liked it a lot. Like obviously if you're just playing through the story, like it's fine. But like going through like the typical WarioWare stuff where you play a micro game over and over again, you get better scores. There's like different achievements to unlock and like items to get. I really like it. I'm always a big fan of WarioWare. Like I played the original as a kid and loved it. I was obsessed with DIY when that came out on the DS. Like I love that game. So I've always been a huge fan of WarioWare, and I'm happy this Switch entry was like really good because I think there was a few before that like they kind of deviated, like Game and Wario on the Wii U, which was fun but wasn't like WarioWare. And then they had like the Move It one also on Switch, which I didn't really care about. Like, but this one was basically like a traditional WarioWare game, just with the gimmick where you could like control your characters. And I really liked it a lot as well. Not enough for like my top 10 or whatever, but I really did enjoy Get It Together. For my number 9, it has Splatoon 2 plus Octo expansion as well. Travis has it up or higher on his list, but Splatoon 2 is fantastic. I like almost forgot about it until my brother was like, "Oh, where's Splatoon 2 on your list?" I'm like, "Fuck, you're right. I love Splatoon 2." Like Splatoon 3 was good, but I think 2 was just kind of better. I don't know, because it came out earlier in the Switch life cycle, so I just played more of it. But I just feel like everything about it kind of just hit more. Like Salmon Run, I fucking love Salmon Run. The multiplayer was a lot. I feel like 3 got like way too sweaty at a certain point where I'm just like, "Fuck this." But 2 felt like pretty more, like it felt more balanced to me. And then you have Octo expansion, which is fucking awesome. Like I love Octo expansion so much. It's so good. Like the levels are a ton of fun. It's hard as shit. Like it has really good set piece moments towards the end. It was just a really, really good like sort of like single player expansion, and I loved it. So yeah, Splatoon 2 plus Octo expansion are just fantastic games. 3 is still really good as well. I love 3 and its DLC, but I think 2 like barely like goes above it. Like I really do like Splatoon 2 a lot.
Yeah, I mean, the reason why Splatoon 2 is within my top 3 is because when it came out, there was like not much else to play on the Switch. You know, obviously you had Breath of the Wild, but I think this was like the next big Nintendo game that came out, because then the one after this, I believe, was Mario Odyssey. But Splatoon 2, I just played so much of it when it came out. I played the online like probably for like well over 20, 30 hours, I want to say. Like, I was playing that. I was grinding it out. I think I got like maybe like A or even S rank. I don't even know what the
you went really
highest.
high,
Yeah, I was grinding. But, you know, because it is a Nintendo multiplayer shooter game, but there's obviously gimmicks to it. For example, you can't just pick which modes you want to play. They rotate them out over like a few hours or whatever. So like that really like nerfed it for me. And also just the fact that you are most of the time playing with other kids. So I'm just like, you know, I'm in like these really like high ranked lobbies, but you know, I'm still playing with like fucking little ass Timmy who's like, you know, doing whatever. I'm like, God damn it. But you know, Splatoon 2 is a lot of fun. This was my first ever Splatoon experience. So the fact that I was able to get so much mileage out of it was a lot of fun. And I feel like it was definitely worth the $60. When Splatoon 3 came out, I kind of just like missed it and I didn't really hear much buzz about it. So I kind of just skipped out on it, got it when it was on sale. And I haven't even really touched that game or even opened it. I don't even think. But, you know, Splatoon 3 I heard was just more Splatoon action. So, you know,
it was more the same. Yeah.
I felt like I wasn't even missing out on much.
All right, so our number 8, do you want to go first? Or
yeah, I mean, mine is Mario and Luigi Brothership. So despite, you know, my dislike with the game and sort of my problems with it, you know, being very, very long, and sort of the story not really going anywhere, and then like the later half of it actually kind of does go hard. You know, there's definitely a lot of problems with it. But I think for a Mario and Luigi experience, especially one that we haven't had in like fucking years, I was just happy to like, you know, play one that was another Mario and Luigi experience. You know, it was just a ton of fun. I think even though the story does take a while to really get going and sort of how handholdy it is at times, I think that at the end of the day, this is another really good step in the right direction for Mario and Luigi. I just don't know what's going to happen next because of the sort of what's going on with the developers. Are they getting bought out or whatever? I have no idea what the fuck's happening. But yeah, you know, I just want more Mario and Luigi games because I think that this is like the most charming out of the Mario RPG series, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree as well. Like Mario and Luigi has always been my favorite out of the RPG series, you know, from the original Mario RPG to Paper Mario. Like I've always loved Mario and Luigi the most. And I think Brothership was a really solid entry in the series. I rated it about the same as like Dream Team, where like, I did enjoy Dream Team as well. It just, they basically kind of have like similar problems where it was just like too fucking long for what it was. And, you know, this is good for someone that does play really long RPGs a lot of the time. I just felt like the game didn't have to be like 40 fucking hours or whatever. Like, they definitely could like cut it in half and it would have been fine, especially because there was like a lot of backtracking towards the end. I'm just like I just wanted to move on from that point. But the game was still a ton of fun. I love the combat system, fun as always. I love the I forgot what to call it, the plug system. The plug system was a ton of fun, where you could like combine different passive effects and like combine together to do new stuff. All the barrel attacks were a ton of fun. I love the bosses. The bosses were fantastic in this game, especially a lot of the optional bosses, which like really made me sweat. They were like really hard. But yeah, and you know, I think the main problem with the game, like I said, was the pacing, the story not really going anywhere, like you said, until like sort of like the last like bit of the game. Like that stuff really does drag it down a bit, and sort of like performance issues and, you know, some bugs or whatever. But I think the game is still really solid, and you know, I was struggling to kind of find a place for it on my list as well, because I just thought there was better games, but it still is really good, and I do hope they make more Mario and Luigi games or just more Mario RPGs in general. But I'm just thankful Nintendo gave us like basically 3 in a row with 2 remakes and a new one, so I'll take what I could get. And for my number 8, I have Mario Brothers Wonder. I mean, Wonder is fantastic. I mean, like, this is like, you know, like it could have been higher, but there's just so many fucking games, like I said. Wonder is just really good. Like, it really reinvigorated 2D Mario again after having years of New Super Mario Brothers. And, you know, I don't hate New Super Mario Brothers, like, you know, like a lot of other people do. Like, I have a lot of great memories with those games, but it's nice to see something that's like, you know, a 2D Mario that's actually taking some like risk and like doing some crazy new stuff, and I really like that. You know, the art style is really nice. I love the Wonder Flower whenever you pick that up, and the whole stage changes, like the new power-ups, like Elephant Mario, all like the little challenges you could do. Like, all of it is just fantastic. It's just a very solid 2D Mario game with a ton of fun gimmicks, and you know, that's basically what I'm looking for in my 2D Mario games, right? Just like a ton of personality, great level gimmicks. It's a bit on the easier side, but that's whatever. Wonder. Like, I think the game is just a ton of fun. So yeah, Mario Wonder is really fucking good.
Yeah. It's on my number 2 just because I fucking love 2D Mario games. And
Yeah.
I had a hard time. I was like, do I put Odyssey or Mario Wonder here? I think Wonder just because it was a lot more recent. And, I like Odyssey, which I will talk about more later. But, I think Wonder, there's like nothing necessarily wrong with it. Like every single level feels well thought out. Every single gimmick feels nice and fun to play. The challenge of Mario Wonder also, it's not within the main levels. There are these side levels that you could do. And that's where I think the most fun you could have with Mario Wonder is when you actually try to 100% complete it. Because I think that's what a lot of sort of like 2D platformer enthusiasts really want, is like something that's really challenging within the Mario setting. And, that is something that Mario Wonder really brings to the table, and everything new that they add here with the Wonder Flower, with the elephant power, like literally everything. And also this is the start of the new Mario art style, them being a lot more sort of personality, I would say, just having much more of a cutesy art style and actually, looking nice, I would say, instead of just being like the stale Mario art style that we've had for years. But yeah, Mario Wonder is just a flawless 2D Mario experience. And really, going from, I guess, New Super Mario Bros. U to this is like fucking night and day, like legit. So, I just cannot wait to see what they do next. Obviously, they took their time with Mario Wonder, and that's why every single level feels as thought out and as fleshed out as it is. So whenever they make that Mario Wonder sequel, I will be there. And, I hope that it is just as good as the previous one.
Mm-hmm. All right, so number 7. So I guess I'll go first here. I have Pikmin 4 on here. Obviously, this is Travis's number 1 pick, which I don't blame him for. Pikmin 4 is fucking fantastic. So before Pikmin 4 came out, I played through all the Pikmin games for the first time. I played through Pikmin 1, 2, 3, and then 4. And yeah, Pikmin 4 is the best out of all of them. I think it just combines everything good about all the Pikmin games, You have the Pikmin 1 elements with the whole fucking Olimar side story in Pikmin 4, which was awesome. You have the dungeons coming back from Pikmin 2, but they're not as annoying as they were in Pikmin 2. They were a lot more thought out. They weren't randomly generated. All of them felt like they have a purpose to like exist in this game space. And I just have the polish of Pikmin 3 as well. And sort of like the standardized controls, what you expect from a new Pikmin game. And yeah, man, it was awesome. It just had a load of content, a lot of great dungeons, great bosses, great puzzles. Everything about this is like the definitive Pikmin game. And, I was just shocked with how much shit there was in this game. Like there's so many dungeons, there's so many collectibles to get. Again, the whole Olimar side story thing that you could just do, like that felt like it could have just been DLC, because that was like a whole ass thing you could just do. I'm like, that's crazy. That's just in the game for free. Yeah, Pikmin 4 is just loaded with content that's like super fun. It has like the whole nighttime game mode thing too that you could do. It's just, again, just packed with stuff. It has a multiplayer, like everything about it is great. The game looks awesome as well. Like just graphically, it's one of the best looking Switch games as well, and it runs pretty well. I'm surprisingly it runs pretty well. Yeah, Pikmin 4 is just a really great game, and for me, it's definitely my favorite Pikmin game. I think it beats all of them out of the water. It takes all the good elements from all the games into this one big game, and it really makes me wonder how they will ever top this with a Pikmin 5, if they even are going to do a Pikmin 5, because like this definitely feels like, they put out all the stops for this one,
Yeah, Miyamoto's love child. He wants Pikmin to take over, even though, people are like, but we like Mario, we like Zelda. I'm one of those people who absolutely adore Pikmin. When I first played those games back on the Wii, I was very, very surprised by how much I actually loved it. Because, when you hear about Pikmin 1, where it's like, it's a 30-day time limit, I'm like, that sounds fucking stressful. But when you're actually playing it, the strategy of trying to find all of the ship parts, the collectibles, everything like that, it just felt so much fun. Obviously, Pikmin 2 was a little bit of a stumble with the whole dungeons and everything. But Pikmin 3 on the Wii U was like an absolute joy for me to play, especially considering the fucking Wii U drought. I was like, yes, Pikmin 3, let's go. And then, shortly after that, he was like, yeah, man, Pikmin 4 is almost done. I was like, no fucking shot. And now here we are. I think it was like last year or the year before, whenever fucking Pikmin 4 came out, and yeah, it is definitely top 2 Pikmin games. I'm not sure if I actually like Pikmin 3 more yet. I haven't replayed the trilogy in a while, so I would definitely have to go back and really solidify my opinion on it. But Pikmin 4 is definitely the most polished Pikmin game yet. Like you said, Damian, there's so many modes, so many different things you could do. The the Dandori battles. That's something that Damian forgot to mention. You know, that was such like a fun little mode that you could face off against like NPCs or whatever, you know, just like battling it out to see who can get sort of the higher number score. Just be a lot more efficient than the other player. And sometimes the fucking CPU was actually kind of difficult.
Oh, God. Some of the last ones are hard as fuck. I'm like, Jesus Christ.
And once again, this is another Nintendo game where the difficulty gradually ramps up. It's not naturally difficult like something like, I would say, like Elden Ring or whatever, you know, like this is a game that if you continue to play and you continue to do the extra levels and the extra side stories or whatever, you know, it will get harder, it will get more difficult just because you are playing more. So, you know, Pikmin 4 is just like the complete package, I would say, for a Pikmin experience. Even if you never played a fucking Pikmin game, you could jump into this one, really get your toes wet, see if you like it, then you could always go back, play the other games. You know, Pochi is such a cute addition, but also a very well-needed addition to make sure that all of your Pikmin stay together and you could be very, very efficient about it. I think the reason why I'm sort of hesitant as to why I like Pikmin 3 or 4 more, because I like Pikmin 3's sort of 3 captain setup where you could send one captain to this part of the area, then you do something else on the other side, etc., etc. So, you know, Pikmin 4 does take that away. But I think at the end of the day, depending on how you look at it, Pikmin 4 definitely is the most polished and was definitely a huge, huge success for the Pikmin series. And I want another Pikmin game, but we'll just have to wait and see exactly if that'll happen. I think a spin-off game is probably not a good idea. You're considering the last one on Hey Pikmin on the 3DS was not that great. But, you know, more Pikmin is always good in my eyes. Maybe not Nintendo's pockets, but
I like is Miyamoto's like love child, so like he would always like push for it, which is like you're very lucky that Miyamoto likes it so much.
My number 7.
They're number 7. Yeah,
my number 7 is Smash Ultimate. So I was thinking about if I should put this higher or not, but just considering how much time I actually put into it compared to these other games, and sort of my personal enjoyment out of it. You know, I get a lot of enjoyment watching competitive Smash Brothers. And Smash Ultimate, I would say for like the past few years, I have not been following it that closely. But I think when the game first came out, for like those first few years, you know, it was pretty exciting to watch, you know, follow the players and everything like that. But, you know, for me personally, you know, I am just so fucking bad at like fighting games, and I'm so critical of myself that I just get pissed off and just like really just like self-tilt myself. I'm just like, yeah, you know, like I'm not that great at Smash Brothers, but you know, I think that the game itself is a lot of fun. The fact that they were able to get the roster that they have is like fucking insane. You know, I don't know if they're even going to be able to even replicate it within the next Smash Brothers game, because they're gonna have to retalk to all of these, you know, third-party studios, be like, hey, can we like bring this character back? And like they might say no, they might say yes. And you know, that's always like a tricky thing about like bringing characters back or not. And you know, Smash Ultimate is the ultimate Smash Brothers game because everyone's there from the previous games for like the first party side, and then on top of that you have all of the other characters from like third parties also agreeing to return on top of new additions, and the last fighter being Sora is like insane. So yeah, Smash Brothers Ultimate is like, it's always a event whenever new characters were getting announced, and also just like the game itself is pretty fun.
Yeah, for me, I have it at number 3 because, you know, Smash Ultimate feels like such a crazy game that exists because it has so many different characters. I mean, just the Everyone Is Here trailer was like insane watching that live. I remember when they announced fucking Joker from Persona 5, because he like a Persona character in Smash Brothers is always like they're never gonna do it, but it'd be cool. I remember when they showed that in the Game Awards, I like fucking like lost my voice, bro. I was like, holy fuck, that's insane. And then you got like Banjo and shit. Like you got so many insane characters that came out. Sora, finally fucking Sora was in Smash Brothers. I personally really enjoyed the single player content. Like I really enjoyed World of Light and doing all of that. It was like a ton of stuff you could just do single player wise, which I always really appreciate in fighting games or like racing games or whatever. Because again, just like you, I'm fucking bad. So it's always nice to have something to play through. And I really enjoyed World of Light. You know, maybe not as much as like something like Subspace Emissary because that had the cool cutscenes or whatever. But I think it was enough content that I really enjoyed my time with it. And I put in a lot of time into World of Light too. It's like fucking like 50. It's like long as shit for some reason. So yeah, I enjoyed all the content in this game. I love that arcade mode is back to being like unique for each character, and they kept updating it for the like the newer characters that were coming out as well. It just had like a ton of content to play through, even if you weren't just playing online or whatever, which I always appreciate. And it does make me wonder how they're gonna top this game. And I think they're probably gonna do like a Mario Kart 8 Deluxe situation where Since we already know Sakurai is working on Kirby Air Riders, I don't think a new Smash Brothers game is going to come out for a very long time. So I think it would be nice to just kind of like make a super like a Smash Brothers Ultimate Deluxe and just maybe throw in some new fighters, some new modes or whatever, and then call it a day. I think that would be the best thing for Smash Brothers this console generation, because again, Ultimate's so big already, you might as well just keep adding to it at this point. So but I guess we'll see once a new Smash Bros game comes out. But yeah, Smash Bros Ultimate is fucking great, and it's my number 3. So I guess we can move on with number 6. I have, speaking of Mario Kart, Chaz has Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and I have Metroid Dread. So I guess we could just talk about Mario Kart 8 Deluxe because we were just talking about it. So
yeah, I mean, I feel like Mario Kart is just like a timeless fucking game. I mean, there's a reason why it's launching with the Switch 2, because Nintendo knows that game will sell consoles and will sell like hotcakes, and they're able to get away with $80. But anyways, yeah, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, I really liked Mario Kart 8 on the Wii U. I personally really thought that was like the best Mario Kart game ever, even though it was on the fucking Wii U. But then, it gets ported onto the Switch and they add new characters. They make sure that it's all nice and polished. They even added a fucking goddamn extra courses on there like a few years later when people thought that was going to be like Mario Kart 9 or whatever. But, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, there's just so much fucking content to it. You could really just like pick up and play, and people are still playing the game to this day. That's how people love Mario Kart. And even sometimes my girlfriend will be like, yeah, let's fucking play Mario Kart. I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. And yeah, it is still a fun time. I think the kart racing formula has never been as good as it is with Mario Kart. Obviously other studios and other sort of IPs will try to replicate it, but I think the polish and sort of the nuances that Mario Kart does is something that has not been matched yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, even with other competitors, like probably the closest, probably like the Sonic and Sega All-Stars racing games, like those are probably the closest they've been to like sort of like replicating the fun of Mario Kart. But yeah, Mario Kart is still on a league of its own, and Mario Kart 8 definitely just has the most content out of any Mario Kart game. Even with the booster packs, it's basically the Smash Ultimate of Mario Kart. There's just like almost every stage you could think of, so many different characters you could play as. It's basically the definitive Mario Kart experience with like all these older games. And it looks like Mario Kart World wants to like sort of like evolve the series forward with, its more open level design and like the weird parkour systems you have and all that. So it seems like Mario Kart World was sort of like the last hurrah for like sort of this format of Mario Kart. And yeah, it's really good. Again, like I don't have it anywhere on here. I'm still a Mario Kart like DS enjoyer, where like I just really enjoy Mario Kart DS a lot, mostly because I love the mission mode in that game a ton. And like I said, I always appreciate when there's a good single player, and Mario Kart 8 Deluxe doesn't really have that. Like it's mostly are just playing, like, yeah, you could do them all Grand Prix or whatever, but yeah, you're mostly playing online, right? But yeah, I can't deny that Mario Kart 8 Deluxe has just a shitload of content, and for a lot of people, this is the definitive Mario Kart experience. For me, for number 6, I have Metroid Dread. So Metroid Dread is fucking awesome. And just like with Pikmin, I played through all the 2D Metroids before playing this one. And I think Metroid Dread is my favorite as well. Like, Dread is just super goddamn good. It looks beautiful. It plays great. The game has a great amount of challenge to it, which I wasn't expecting. Like, a lot of the boss fights are very hard. The final boss in particular is a ton of fun, but also took me a lot of tries to get through it. And yeah, man, it's just like a really great Metroid game. Like, it takes everything I think the previous 2D Metroid games do really well, and just makes it even better. Like, I think Mercury Steam's first sort of like foray into the 2D Metroid games being the remake of Metroid 2 on 3DS. Like, that game was good, but it was still kind of hampered by it being a remake of Metroid 2, which is kind of just like an okay game. And that game just had like a lot of buttons you had to press, and on a 3DS, it kind of feels like not great. Metroid Dread, we were able to fully use every fucking button on that controller. Like, Samus could do so many different things that's super fun to play. Like, the platforming feels great, the combat feels great, a ton of great upgrades you could play through. The sort of like the Emmy sections where you like sort of like hide from like the robots just insta kill you. Those were always tense and fun to go through. Dread was just a fantastic 2D Metroid game, and I think really like show that Mercury Steam could make. It's kind of like retro, where they know how to make 3D 3D Metroid Prime plus Donkey Kong. Like, I think Mercury Steam really nailed the 2D aspect of Metroid Dread, and apparently they are working on another 2D Metroid game, and I cannot wait for that, because Dread is just fantastic, and I definitely recommend it to anyone that's like a big fan of 2D Metroid or just kind of wants to get their feet wet in the Metroidvania series. Like, it's pretty difficult, but I think it's a great time. It's very good.
Yeah, I played the first couple levels like years and years ago when it came out, but
Yeah.
now it touched a sense. But yeah, it was pretty good when I tried it out. Number 5. So I got I was about to say Mario. Animal Crossing New Horizons. And Damian has Fire Emblem Three Houses. So Animal Crossing, I think I was one of the many people that got addicted to Animal Crossing when it was out on the 3DS with New Leaf. Yep. I was playing that shit daily for like, I don't even know how many fucking months.
Yeah,
like
were.
legit.
Yeah.
Every single day I would go in, check my town, do my thing, and then just log out for like a few hours. I would do that every single day. And obviously at a certain point I stopped. And then I think right before New Horizons came out, I like revisited my old town and like, oh my God, Travis, where have you been? I was like, oh no, I can't. I'm fucking closing it. But I think if I were to open my 3DS log, I played it for like 200 plus hours or some shit. So
Jesus Christ.
I played a fuck ton of New Leaf. So going into New Horizons, obviously I was like expecting maybe a lot going into it. And it kind of came out at like the perfect time, unfortunately, with the whole pandemic, like everyone was fucking inside. Nintendo Switches were like out of stock everywhere because everyone was now trying to play Animal Crossing, which was kind of cool. And Animal Crossing New Horizons is a lot of fun. I think it is pretty much New Leaf just on the Switch. I mean, like, what more else could I really want from it? I think they were just really slow at updating the game, which is why I think a lot of people burnt out on it pretty quick. Doing the whole like daily thing of like going into your town and like checking up on it, doing your dailies, yada, yada, yada. It was still fun. And I think it is still like one of the best like cozy game experiences, if you will. But I think nowadays, it has been updated several times. There's a lot of things that you can do that I probably don't know about or not that educated in, but I know that they have added a ton to Animal Crossing New Horizons, and I think they recently updated it as well after like fucking 3 years or something like that. So, Animal Crossing New Horizons, it looks like it's not going anywhere just yet, but I think another Animal Crossing game could be needed for the Switch 2, maybe like a year or two down the pipeline. But yeah, Animal Crossing is a series that I think everyone should at least try at some point. I think the novelty of playing it when everyone else is playing it is definitely a key factor of it. So don't like go back and like try to play like New Leaf. I think that like you might get into it, but I think playing like whichever like newest one is out right now, I think is like the best decision. And obviously playing it when it first comes out, when everyone else is playing it, is also another key thing as to why I think a lot of people enjoyed New Horizons, in my opinion.
Yeah, like the only reason I don't have it on here is because I think I did like New Leaf a bit more. I also played New Leaf quite a bit, probably not as much as you. I think I had like maybe 70-ish hours or something. But I really enjoyed New Leaf a lot. There was like a ton of stuff to do in that game, and I really enjoyed it like a ton. And I feel like New Horizons, like you said, I think it was just like kind of slow to update stuff, and people got burnt out a bit more faster than usual, probably because everyone was stuck home. So like people just kept playing it every day, and like people were like having no lives during that time.
Yeah.
And there were some mechanics that were like a little annoying. Like the crafting stuff is cool in theory, but the fact that you can't like bulk craft or like some of the stuff like kept breaking and shit, it just kind of got annoying. But it was still a good time. I still really enjoyed Animal Crossing New Horizons, and I just feel like recently there was a lot more other cozy games coming out at the time. Like I played a shitload of Stardew Valley, like, a few years before this game came out. I have like, I don't even know how many hours I've been Stardew. I think like 150 or something. And that game is just addicting because you could just keep playing it forever, right? Like there is no day limit. Like you can just keep going day to day to day. Sort of like a Harvest Moon game. And, other cozy games have been coming out, like that Fantasy Life game everyone's talking about now. Probably gonna pick that up on the Switch too when it does come out. That game also has the same structure where you kind of just play it forever. Like it's more Harvest Moon style, so you don't have to wait daily to play the game. And for me, I think that's what's really killing Animal Crossing as a series to me, where I'm just like, I just want to fucking play it, right? So yeah. But I know that's also the main appeal of Animal Crossing as well, right? Like if they make a new one, I'm still gonna fucking buy it. Like I still have 70 hours in New Horizons. I really like it, but it's I think other cozy games and the fact that, for some people, the game is a little more disappointing. To some people, might have brought it down a bit. But I still enjoy the game quite a bit. But for me, number 5 is Fire Emblem Three Houses. Three Houses is fucking awesome. Like, I love Three Houses. Actually, Travis is the one that, got me really into Fire Emblem to begin with. Fire Emblem Awakening was my first Fire Emblem. Like, I'm sure a lot of people's first Fire Emblem is. And, Travis loved Awakening. And then I played it and fucking loved Awakening. Then Fates came out, and Fates was like, okay. But then I just kept up with the series after that. Like Shadows of Valencia, I fucking loved. Three Houses, I adore. And Engage, I really liked as well. But yeah, Three Houses is definitely my favorite out of all of them. Like, I think the map designs aren't as good as some of the other games. Like, the encounters are mostly just like open fields and like that's it, which isn't as exciting as some of the other Fire. Like, I think Engage has like way better encounter design, but everything else about Fire Emblem and Three Houses is awesome. Like, just like the three paths you could pick. The story, changing drastically depending on like what side you're on. Like the music is fucking great. The combat's still just as good as ever. I love the sort of like the Persona-like mechanics where you can like interact with your I guess your students in this game. Sort of have like a daily life and stuff. Have a calendar system. Very Persona coded. Everything about it was just super good. And like some of the big battle moments, I still remember to this day because of how good they are. So yeah, Three Houses is fucking great. It has really good DLC as well. To me, it's just like the definitive Fire Emblem experience. Like, I love it so much. It's so good. It could be hard to get into just because there's so much stuff in the game, but it's definitely worth getting into. Engage is also very good, that I talked about before. But yeah, Three Houses is fucking fantastic.
Yeah. Fire Emblem Three Houses, I definitely wanted to get into. I think just at the time with like college and everything, I just really didn't have the time for it. But I definitely want to dive back into Fire Emblem because, like you said, fucking Awakening was like my shit. I think that's actually, it's either tied with Animal Crossing or it's above it because I played Awakening so fucking much because I restarted that game so many times because I like fucked up like certain mechanics with like the marriage, and then I like got like too many party members killed, so I had like 3 members at one point. And I was like, I have to restart because I like fucked up here. Anyways, yeah, definitely want to get back into Fire Emblem at some point, but now we got our number 4 pick. We both have Mario Odyssey. I just realized that's like our only pick that's like aligned with each other.
Yeah,
it's very funny, but. Yes, Mario Odyssey. I still remember when this game came out because this was like one of the last times there was like a midnight release, if you will. Like Best Buy was open at midnight, so me and my brother went to Best Buy to go and pick the game up. And yeah, I played it for like a few hours that night. Obviously went back to bed, woke up the next morning, and yeah, Mario Odyssey, for like my first major 3D Mario experience since like Galaxy, which I think a lot of people, we're sort of in that same boat. But for me personally, I don't really have a lot of experience with like Sunshine or whatever. And I wasn't there when Galaxy really came out. I think Galaxy 2 was like the first big 3D Mario game that I got super duper into because Galaxy 2 is fucking great. But Mario Odyssey, I was really, really looking forward to it just because it was fucking weird when it, first dropped its trailer. It was like a bunch of like normal people, and then suddenly Mario pops up out of the fucking sinkhole, and then, his hat has eyes, and it's like, what the hell's going on? So, Mario Odyssey in and of itself as a game, I think is a lot of fun. I think the collectathon aspect of it might be a little bit too much because there are too many fucking moons to collect.
Yeah.
But I think overall, like the level to level open world-esque nature of it is a lot of fun. I just wonder what their next 3D Mario game is going to be, whether it's a sequel to Odyssey or maybe even a sequel to one of the other Mario games like Sunshine, Galaxy, etc. I think Mario in a 3D space, there's a lot that he has yet to do, surprisingly. And I think Odyssey really showed that, there's still more to do with this character.
Yeah, again, like you said, like I don't think Odyssey is my favorite 3D Mario. That is gonna be Galaxy, like 1 and 2. I remember vividly like when Galaxy 1 was coming out. Like I remember playing like the demos and like GameStop or whatever, like with like fucking B Mario and being like, yo, this is like the coolest shit ever. And then I remember very vividly Mario Galaxy 2 coming out. Like I remember like Kofi and I just talking about it like religiously, like fucking like you go get Yoshi, like it's cool. So yeah, I remember that shit being super hype. And when Odyssey came out, I really like Odyssey a lot. Like I think there's a lot of really good things about it. Like the movement is great. The Cappy mechanic with possessing any enemy you see is really cool as well. I do think the game kind of does stumble, like you said, there's just too many fucking moons where it just feels like, you do anything, you just get a moon, and it's just like too fucking many of them. I also feel like even though Cappy is cool, I do feel like kind of undermines a lot of like the actual platforming you're doing, because a lot of the time you are going to possess some enemy and like do some weird shit instead of just doing like normal Mario platforming. So like most of the time you're just doing that instead of like just jumping on shit, right? And it can be a little much sometimes. But besides that, I think Odyssey is still great. Like, I mean, New Donk City is still like one of the best worlds in any 3D Mario game. Like New Donk and its finale are like fantastic. I love like, the whole moon level when you're, you take control as Bowser and stuff like that. Shit's so memorable to me. So yeah, Odyssey is still like a really great 3D Mario game, and it is going to be hard to top it. And, I think this team is doing the new 3D Donkey Kong team because that was rumored forever and now it's actually happening. So I'm really excited to see what they learn from Odyssey and then apply it to sort of like a new character and stuff. Because I'm very excited for Bonanza and I'm really excited to see like what they really do with the things they learned from Odyssey. So yeah, Odyssey is a fantastic 3D Mario game. Not my favorite, but still like one that the Switch really needed, especially after not really having a 3D Mario game for quite a while because 3D World was different. Even though I love 3D World, that game is like different like inherently from the others. So but yeah, I guess we went through your whole list, so I think it's just me now. So I just have two more here.
Take it away.
So for my number 2, I have Xenoblade Chronicles 3. I mean, yeah, no shocker. I fucking love the Xenoblade series a lot. All of the Xenoblade games are now on Switch with 1, 2, 3, X, like all there. But I think 3 really takes the cake of being the best of the bunch. Like it just takes everything that Xenoblade 1, 2, and X do and just makes it into like basically the perfect game. I have some problems with the story. Like I think there's things that could have been a bit better. But overall, Xenoblade 3 is just like awesome. Like I think all the battle mechanics are super fun. They took away a lot of the frustrating elements from Xenoblade 1, 2, and X and just refined them like to be like the best they could possibly be in this game. The game just looks fantastic as well. Like it's kind of insane how I already thought Xenoblade 2 looked pretty good, but 3 just took that engine and like really ramped it up. Like the game just looks super clear. It runs pretty well for a Switch game. Obviously it's gonna dip below whatever, but that's just the Switch, right? But yeah, like Monolith are just wizards with this console, and I think Xenoblade 3 it was like the biggest game they've made. Like there's just so much content in this game. I mean, I have like 140 hours or something plus the DLC. That's another like 20 hours. Like it's just fantastic. And then the DLC is awesome as well. It's just like pure fan service for like any of the fans that like stuck around for all their games, and it was just so good. Even some of the ending quests in base Xenoblade 3 was also just like it was just so good, dude. Like it's just such a good fucking game that really congratulates the players for just getting through this point. And I'm really excited to see what to do for either Xenoblade 4 or for whatever like new series they're gonna do after this. So I'm really excited to see what Monolith shows up for a direct. I'm gonna like fucking piss my pants because it's gonna be great. So yeah, Xenoblade 3 is just like peak Xenoblade, my favorite, and it's barely reached number 1, but Tears of the Kingdom, I know it's boring, but yeah, Tears of the Kingdom is my number 1. Breath of the Wild, when I played that game for the first time on the Switch, I was like blown away. I was like, this game is fantastic. I loved everything Breath of the Wild did, but it did have like clear points of it not being super great, like the Divine Beast or like whatever. The weapons breaking was like a big issue for a lot of people. There's just a lot of little stuff that needed some improvements, right? But as soon as you walk through Hyrule Field for the first time and just see the whole fucking world in Breath of the Wild, I'm like, damn, man, I don't think any other game's gonna make me feel this way again. And then Tears of the Kingdom came out, and after you do your little tutorial island and you drop back down to Hyrule Field, I got that same exact feeling again. It was so fucking good just to like run around, just do whatever the fuck you want, like do random caves and dungeons and stuff. I think almost everything was improved from this game with the Ultra Hand, so you can make your own like vehicles and shit. I don't think the weapon breaking was as big of an issue in this game because you can like fuse weapons together. The dungeons are so much fucking better than Divine Beast. That's just, they feel like proper dungeons this time. Still not like amazing and like not as good as other Zelda, like 3D Zelda dungeons, but definitely a huge improvement from Breath of the Wild. The shrines were just as fun as ever. The main story, like even though like the story is kind of whatever, I think there's some like really cool like set piece moments and cinematic moments, especially like the last like boss and stuff. So yeah, Tears of the Kingdom, fantastic fucking game. I know it's lame and I know it's like predictable. Oh, Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is number 1, but like whatever, it's really good. It's a really fucking good game, and I think it improves everything that Breath of the Wild did. So yeah, Tears of the Kingdom, my number 1. Load of content. Like you have like the fucking sky, you have the ground, and then you can go fucking underground. It's like a whole ass map too. So the game is like incredible. I'm really excited to actually like play maybe a bit more of it once the Switch 2 upgrade comes out, because I really want to experience the game in like 60 frames, like 4K bullshit or whatever. That'd be fun to just run around and see how it looks. Even though I did most of the stuff. Like I have like 100 hours in that game, and I basically did every shrine and some of the stuff, but there's still so much in that game I haven't done yet. So I'm really excited to like sort of jump back into it and see all the other stuff I missed in like beautiful 60 frames or whatever. So yeah, overall, as you can see, Switch 1 was really fucking good, and I'm hoping the Switch 2 follow suit with the steady release schedule, the amount of great games coming out for it. is this console is going to be really hard to beat in my eyes. So we'll see how Nintendo does with the Switch 2.
Yeah, and I am confident that they are going to announce a Nintendo Direct sometime when Summer Games Fest is going to happen, hopefully, probably.
There's rumored that it was going to be like the same week.
And then that will be the sort of holiday slate for the Switch 2, which will hopefully be a bunch of bangers. But yeah, I'm just not a big 3D Zelda guy, just for anyone wondering, by the way.
You should play Echoes of Wisdom, though. That game is really good.
Yes, I will. I should definitely play Link's Awakening and Echoes of Wisdom. That's definitely on the list. All right, so now let's talk about HBO's The Last of Us, episodes 6 and 7, and also the series review. So, yeah, episode 7, I would say, is a bit of a mess in terms of what it's trying to do. I wrote a lot of fucking notes here. But I think episode 6 really shows that, like, Neil Druckmann still gets it. Like, he still understands, like, what his characters of Joel and Ellie want to do, which is pretty much just, like, they are The Last of Us. I think he said that, like, multiple times, like, they are The Last of Us. And it feels like possibly Craig Mazin and maybe some other executives and writers just, like, don't understand that, like, Ellie is, like, the main sort of piece in the puzzle of this series, and it hurts watching the season finale and just seeing how they change her character so much throughout the season, and then also at the end where she's like pleading for her life and all of this other stuff, which we'll get into like the nitty gritty of it, but it just feels like overall like season 2 is just like such a mess, and it feels like it's not earned within Ellie's revenge story by the end of this, and now we're getting into Abby's story, which is pretty much confirmed to be all of season 3. So there's really no way for them to reverse it or fix it. Like what we got here with these 7 episodes, by the way, only 7 episodes is what we got for Ellie. So yeah, it's I mean,
I think I feel the same way like you do, and like how everyone else feels, where it just feel like really messy. And again, I feel like try to fix problems that the gamers had with the series, or with the game rather, like try and make Ellie, I guess, more likable and like not as much of like a psychopath, but it kind of undermines her whole revenge story to begin with. Like the whole point was for her to be like sort of like a ruthless monster and like just killing for the sake of Joel and stuff. And I feel like the whole show kind of misses that mark, because she just kind of feels dumb in this show. She makes a lot of weird choices, and again, there's nothing on the actor, like, or whatever, like, I know that people get really weird about it, like we've talked about, but I think it's just more of a writing thing where it just feels like they really want to make Ellie like more likable, so she wouldn't have the same issues people had with her in the game. But that was kind of like the whole point of her character in Last of Us Part 2. She was supposed to be like this broken person that like lost basically everything, and she's going through this like revenge crusade, and in doing so she loses like so much more than if she would have just like let it go, right? Like that's kind of like the whole point. But you don't really get that same sense of like urgency, you don't get that same sense of like her bloodlust. Everything just kind of just feels like it just happens, and that she still has like a heart left in her, even though I don't think that's the point. Like she doesn't really get that sort of like soul in her back until like the very end of the game, when she's like hunting down Abby, and like she's like, what's the fucking point of this, right? So I wonder how they're gonna do that last, like, I guess San Diego, I think they were in San Diego, like that last scene of Last of Us Part 2, because I feel like she was supposed to like kind of realize that up to that point, right? So I don't know. It just feels like to try to fix issues that I feel like didn't really need fixing. Like all they really had to do was keep the game in like a proper pace, because I feel like the only issue with the Ellie segment in Last of Us Part 2 was that it felt too fucking long. And I felt like, even though this was like 2 episodes left, like it should have been more episodes, I want to be clear, but I feel like it just didn't explore enough of her like emotional turmoil and like how like, it's really affecting her. She just kind of seems like wishy-washy with a lot of the choices she's done, and like she shows too much remorse too. I don't know, it's weird.
Yeah, because she doesn't lock in until, what was it, episode 5? Like in up until that point, we've already had, episode 2, Joel dies, and then episode 3 and 4, it's kind of just like meandering around or whatever, just like, here's Ellie and Dina going on these adventures, woohoo! But it's like, all right, like what is happening here that is getting us to Nora? Or no, I guess it was episode 4 where, what's it called? No, wait, hold up. I'm just making sure. Okay, yes. Episode 5 is where she does kill Nora. Episode 4 is where they're still hunting her down and all of this other stuff, and that's where the sex scene happens. And like, I'm pregnant. I'm gonna be a dad. Oh my god. It just seems like such a weird, just like sort of tones that are going on here. The pacing is also very, very weird, where like at times it's going slow, then it's going fast, and especially towards the end here, where like they're like, oh fuck, we gotta wrap everything up within 7 episodes. But they're like, we could work around like the sort of episode count, but they chose 7 episodes for whatever reason. They chose 7 episodes. episodes when the first season was I want to say 9. I'm not. Yes, 9. First season was 9. So the fact that they were like, yeah, we'll just cut it short by 2 for whatever reason, especially when The Last of Us Part 2 is a much longer game. But I digress. Let's dive into episode 6 first. So this is the flashback episode. This is everything containing what happened in between season 1 to season 2. And the reason why they did this, as opposed to with the game where they spliced it in between segments of Ellie's story to give us more context as to Ellie and Joel's relationship and what happened between that fallout with them, etc., etc. The reason why they put it all within one episode is because, you know, they can't just give sort of Pedro Pascal credit within every single episode, because then they would have to pay him more. So they were like, all right, how do we keep the budget down while still telling the story about what happened between Joel and Ellie between the seasons? All right, we'll just dump it all into one episode, which is fine. You know, I think the way they did it was actually very, very good. I think opening up with this flashback scene of Joel and Tommy from the past was very, very cool to go and show that Tommy was sort of like the underling that Joel was watching over. You know, Joel has always had like this sort of like protective sort of nature of him, and his dad, you know, sort of bringing that out of him and being like, I hope you do a little better than me, which, you know, ties it back to the end of the episode, which, you know, is another thing. You know, Neil Druckmann has his problems, obviously. He's not a fucking godsend of a writer, but I think this episode really shows that like he fucking gets it and he understands what he wanted to do with this adaptation to make it different, but also still have it be Joel and Ellie and Tommy, etc.
Yeah, I think like scenes like this, it's like it kind of felt like I was watching back to season 1, where I feel like they added scenes that like made sense or like, you know what I mean? Like it just complements the story, but doesn't really like rewrite it in any way. It just like complements like what's going on. And I think this was a great way to sort of give more like insight to how Joel's sort of parenting style kind of was or whatever, or how he would feel about Ellie as like, you know, his like adoptive daughter basically. And, you know, and it just shows that Joel was trying his best to be better than his dad, you know, for like beating him or whatever. And, you know, and obviously it's ironic because, you know, he did kill a bunch of people for Ellie, and that's like arguably a worse thing than just like killing her, I guess. I don't know. But, you know, it does show that he was trying his best to be better in every single way than his dad. And I guess he wants to also put that into Ellie. I think it's just good context for like what their relationship is as like a sort of like father-daughter dynamic. And yeah, it was really good. I think it like flowed really well into the story without like sort of like disrupting it or anything, right? So
yeah, shout out to Tony Dalton. He played Jack/Swordsman from Hawkeye and Daredevil. So I was like, oh shit, it's that guy. I didn't know his name, but I was like, yes, I fucking recognize him, and he's a great actor. He's always a lot of fun when he shows up. But and then the episode goes from like year to year, pretty much like birthday to birthday with Ellie, and sort of showing how their relationship slowly crumbled it in a way. You know, at first with her 15th birthday, you know, it's a lot of fun. It's very playful. It really felt like we were back within season 1, you know, just having them go on silly, fun adventures, which I'm sure which is what a lot of people thought we were going to get within season 2, to like the sort of TV audience only watchers, you know, like, oh my God, it's going to be more Ellie and Joel, right? And it's like, nope, we're fucking killing them episode 2. So yeah, you know, I really like this scene together, you know, them being very playful, being very much like a sort of girl-dad relationship kind of thing, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's why it works in the games, because I do like how they did, like you said, put them all in like one segment, because as a show, I feel like it helps with the pacing or whatever, and they don't have to pay Pedro Pascal as much. You know, it's also a bonus for them. But I feel like with Ellie in this show, she just acts like not that much different as she acts in these flashbacks. I think it works more effectively in the game, because in the game, Ellie is again fucking distraught, and like she's basically not even recognizable with how she was in the first Last of Us. And I remember when I played through the flashback scenes, it's like, oh, it's like you're back to how Ellie used to be, right? And it just, I guess, kind of hits a lot closer to like home or whatever, like, because it's like, oh yeah, this is like she used to be happy, right? And I feel like I didn't really get that same, like maybe a little bit, because, you know, Joel and Ellie dynamic, like, you know, you're obviously not going to get that anymore, but I feel like it doesn't hit as hard as it does with the game, because Ellie's character just feels so much different than it did in the game, where these flashbacks like kind of lose more like focus on like what she was like, right? Because she's still like joking, and she's still like being playful in like the current timeline, and in the game she was like a fucking mess, and these flashbacks were meant to show like what humanity she used to have with Joel, right? So I don't know. Obviously, there's nothing wrong with these flashback scenes. I think these were all great, but it kind of just like kind of goes overarching like what like the problems with like her character in general, right? And so
yeah, just like in the show, because like once we get out of these sort of flashback sequences, we go back into this sort of present day, if you will. Episode 7, it doesn't feel much different from when she was back then. Obviously,
basically,
she's like less playful, less jokey, but she's still her. She's not like broken in a sense in terms of like what you're saying, right?
Yeah. So that's like what I want to bring up. Like, but yeah, it was still like a good scene. We get to see them be like whatever. And I do think this is where like the show's strongest writing is with Joel and Ellie just doing stuff together. Like I think this basically feels like season 1 writing again, where I'm like, yeah, this is like really good character dynamics between both Joel and Ellie. Like it feels very believable and really close to how like the source material was with season 1. And I know that's how people felt with the game too, but obviously the game was going for a different direction. So yeah.
The 16th birthday, with the whole museum bit and the spaceship sequence,
really good,
obviously. Yeah, very, very good. I think that was something that I think even Craig Marzin, I think he was previewed it when the game was still in development. He was like, we need that in the show, and it does not need any changes or whatever. Yeah. And I'm like,
it's a great scene,
yeah, pretty much 1-to-1 from what was in the game. I think the addition of seeing Joel cry when he sees how much fun and joy Ellie is having is just like, man, just like fucking rip my heart already. Yeah. Like, God damn it.
I mean, I really should. Yeah, Pedro Pascal is just like really good as Joel. By the way, like
yes,
I know. I think we said it in the first season, like when we talked about it. But yeah, he like kills it as Joel. Like and like Bella Ramsey also kills it as younger Ellie. Like I think like they like really play younger Ellie extremely well, and Pedro Pascal plays Joel extremely well. I just think with the translation to like what the source material was for season 2 of Last of Us or the game, it was just harder to sort of like fit them into these roles or whatever, right? But this scene was like really done really well. Even though it's like shot for shot, basically, I think both of the actors did like a great job just like sort of encapsulating the exact feel with how you had in the game, right? It was just really good.
Yeah.
So
yeah, Pedro Pascal is such a great actor, and I am honestly never going to get tired of him, no matter how many projects he somehow gets signed on to.
Yeah.
But I just hope that what's it called? Whatever happens for Bella Ramsey's Ellie, when we see her next time, that the writing is better. Because I think that is just the main problem with her character within this season is just the writing is so inconsistent. And it seems like they're just pulling her in like all of these different directions that, she is performing well for the direction that they want, but like it's not in tune with what was done within the game, which, isn't necessarily like they have to go 1 for 1. But I think the overall revenge plot and sort of having this vengeance about like I want to kill fucking Abby and her friends, like that thing, it just wasn't there. So it just felt like her character was just missing a lot of that. But anyways, 17th birthday, just having all of that blow up in their face, I definitely had a feeling that this was going to happen, just seeing how it was going with their relationship, and not everything could be good, right? And I think Joel having like this moment of him being like, you're experimenting with girls. I'm like, all right, well, like, he obviously doesn't know that she's gay. So he's still like trying to like navigate that, because we see him push Seth at the dance. So obviously he's not a fucking homophobe, guys. Like, come on. I think it's just that within the moment, like he thought one way, and obviously Ellie is feeling another way. And she obviously doesn't talk to him about that because he's a guy. And why the fuck would she talk to his sort of father-like figure about that kind of stuff, And, I think within the previous birthday, he mentions like the birds and the bees, and he's like, you're talking to Jesse a lot. I'm like, hey, bro, you don't know shit. So, it's just nice to see all of that stuff come together within this episode. Even though it all sort of comes crashing down within their relationship, it is nice to see them sort of also have these moments afterwards where he's like, all right, well, you're trying to move out. Let me go and help you out. Let me actually like fix up the garage so you're actually comfortable in there.
Yeah, so it's good to see him like, sort of experience like normal dad stuff, being like, like her like just like, yeah, dude, I'm gay, but like he's just being weird about it and stuff, and all the other stuff, like her wanting to move out now and stuff. So I think they handled that stuff well. I don't know if this was like even in the game. I don't think so. Like I remember like I think they just had like the museum part and then one of the other bits as well as one of the flashbacks in the games. So like this was like added in, and I think it was good as well, kind of like adds more to like, the normal teenage growing up stuff that he was going to have to experience when she got older. And I think they handled it pretty well, in a post-apocalyptic sort of style.
Yeah. All right, so 19th birthday. This was 2 years later. They skipped the 18th because they were like, ah, fuck it, whatever. We'll just skip to the more present day kind of thing stuff. And this one involves with Eugene and also Ellie finally realizing that Joel has been lying to her, even though it's not directly about Salt Lake City. This is where she realizes that Joel is a fucking liar and he's not exactly who she thought she was. And obviously all of her doubts relating to the Fireflies are sort of coming true. So he doesn't outright confess to it until the sort of porch scene, which is my problem with it, right? Because I think in the game, when we find out that like Ellie went back to the fucking hospital, she went through all of their stuff, came out, and then, you know, it's like it's such a powerful scene that to replace it with something like this, it just doesn't feel as strong. You know, I get what they're doing. You know, they sort of did that sort of little setup with, you know, placing the sprinkles of like Eugene in there and sort of like that sort of fallout with Gale that Joel has with her. But, you know, just to tie it back to this moment, you know, it's fine. But I think in comparison to like Ellie legit going to the hospital, finding out for herself because she's that curious about what her life means is just so much stronger that this scene just doesn't feel as strong, you know?
Yeah, I agree. Like, I do feel like the whole Eugene thing is like, I get what they're trying to do. Like, it's more like symbolic of like how Joel is as a person or whatever. Because it's just like, he just straight up lies about it after he kills him. And then Ellie's like putting it together. Like, oh, like you're just lying about it. Like you lied about the Fireflies or whatever. And like, that's fine. But I do agree that I think her going to the hospital and sort of like learning about it herself. Like, she already has suspicions also in the game that he wasn't telling her the full truth. But her going there and learning about it herself just feels more of like a thing Ellie would do. Since, again, it's something that I think also the show doesn't do very well. Is like showing how like Ellie just doesn't feel like competent at all in this show. Like she just does things and like gets immediately punished for it. Like Game Ellie was a lot more resourceful and like just smarter how she go about it. She was still reckless, but like she definitely was careful to how approach things. And you know, her going to the hospital does seem like the initiative she would do to really get the answers herself instead of just like sort of like mulling it over or whatever. So I guess there are two different ways to really show who Joel is as a person is, but I feel like the game just shows a better way of how Ellie would approach it rather than just kind of like waiting and seeing what Joel would do, I guess, to Eugene, I guess.
Yeah.
And again, it just seemed like a random plot point to just like, okay, like obviously they right brought up Eugene earlier and how Gale was like, you killed my husband and stuff like that, right? Like we already knew about that from like episode 1 or 2, I forget. But it does just feel like, okay, do we really need that though? Like I get what they try to go for, but I feel like the game way was better. But regardless, I think it was still like a fine way to show that Joel was. I think it's a better scene to show how Joel lies with a straight face, basically, and how he isn't just always telling the full truth. But it does feel like it kind of comes at cost of Ellie's character, which just feels like the whole show in general, right? So
yeah, the entire show is just like them like hacking out at Ellie's character in favor of other characters. You know, I think I put it at the bottom of these notes where it's like, you know, we have these moments of just like. Ellie is just used as a way to show how other characters are better. Like at the end where, you know, Craig Mazin says that like, you know, you can say Abby is certainly, or what's it called? Abby seemingly is not like Ellie in that Ellie is incredibly competent. And obviously everyone fucking threw up a firestorm over that where it's like, you're saying Ellie's incompetent? Like that doesn't make any fucking sense. Yeah. You know, it just seems like a lot of what Marzin does with this material is that he throws down Ellie's character in favor of Dina, Jesse, Tommy, Joel, whoever, you know, Abby, you know, whoever needs to be lifted up within that moment when The Last of Us is about Joel and Ellie. So I don't know why that was done. Obviously, this is just me like theorizing as to like, you know, just by the way that he talks about the show and sort of like his credits within like the writing role and everything like that. So yeah.
Yeah, and I don't really know why though. Like I don't really know why, especially because Ellie was like such a sole focus in Last of Us Part 2. Like that, it's her story, right, and Abby's story. So it feels weird to like sort of muddy the waters and make her seem so like incompetent in this like version of the story, and like prop up other characters even though they're not nearly as important as Ellie was in her own story. Like, this is her story of revenge, and it really doesn't feel that way, right? So
yeah. I guess before we close out episode 6, we obviously got to talk about the porch scene in its entirety. Sort of just like man, like these fucking actors are good. Like
Yeah.
they really brought out the tears and the waterworks and really just gave us a really great scene to really show us that, you know, Joel really loves Ellie, you know, that he straight up says that I love you and you will not understand until you have someone of your own. And then circling back to that line, I hope you do a little bit better than me or whatever. You know, it was just such a great scene. No matter how you feel about sort of like the changes that they've made, you know, it does suck that like this is where like Joel kind of confesses that like he did kill the Fireflies and he did do what he did. But I think the performances, the way that it's shot, everything is just perfect.
Yeah, like yeah, I don't really have any like criticisms of this scene. Like this scene is like really good. Even if you like prefer it if Ellie found out herself or whatever, like and like brought it up to him. But I still think like this is still like a really well done scene, and you know, definitely like a tearjerker and stuff. Like it's really good. And like I said, the way they brought it back to that, you know, hope you're better than me line, and you know, now that Ellie, you know, will have, you know, like a child with Dina, and from the game, we know that doesn't go fucking well. So it kind of like goes back into like, you know, her sort of being like, I hope, you know, it just repeats that whole like chain of events there. And I think that's really well done. So definitely a good line. And I hope maybe Ellie brings it up too. Like maybe she also says that to Dina or something and like her child or whatever at some point. Cause I think that'd be a good little gut punch at like the end of like season 4 when like Dina just fucking leaves. Like, I don't know if they're going to do the same thing in this show, but I guess we'll see.
All right, so now episode 7, like I was alluding to earlier, how the fuck are they going to close everything out within this one episode? Because I was like, how are they going to leave season 2 off? Because now we're like legit at the end. I'm like, are they going to leave it at like a cliffhanger, like right as soon as Abby shows up? No, we see everything that Abby does, and then that sort of concludes Ellie's story for this season. So that is why this fucking episode is like a mess, because it's like kind of all over the place. You know, we start off with sort of Jesse taking out that spear out of Dina, and obviously Jesse's getting a little suspicious about Dina, like, why the fuck are you not drinking, you know, kind of thing, even though you have this fucking spear inside of you. But when Ellie returns after killing / torturing Nora, it's such a key moment within the game. You know, like when I was writing these notes and as I'm writing my own YouTube review of it, you know, I'm rewatching cutscenes, I'm looking back at my own gameplay and everything like that, and I'm like, you know, when after Nora is killed, Ellie comes back to the theater and like her hand shaking, and she's like sort of like shaken up about it. And like within the show, it's kind of like, you know, she comes back and like she tells her everything, but it's not like to the same impact, I feel, even though the game, they don't say a lot like when it happens, you know, like Dina's just like cleaning her up. She's very supportive of Ellie. And then within the show, they decide to extend it. They decide, you know what, we're going to have Ellie tell Dina everything that happened within Salt Lake City. And Dina is very supportive of Ellie here. You know, like she was like, I kept her alive. I was like, wow, that's like fucked up to like not kill her, even though she turned. And Dina says that maybe she deserved it. And I was like, okay, yeah, like that's a Dina thing to do. And then after she finds out what Joel did, she's like, we need to go home. I was like, whoa, what's going on here? Like, I don't understand why they're flip-flopping Dina's character here, especially when they build up her character with Joel so much in the beginning. Like her first scene within episode 1, Dina's first scene is shared with Joel, because obviously we are familiar with Joel, and introducing Dina as this new character with him makes sense. And also having another dynamic with them that was not previously within the game is pretty cool. And then obviously she is there when Joel is killed as well. So why are we at the last second in this episode just ripping it under and being like, like now she doesn't agree with what Joel did, and now that we need to go home?
Yeah, it always feels weird because I feel like Druckmann, like especially, it always like he wants us to really hate Joel. I feel like he really wants the choice he did by killing all the Fireflies, and like, you know, like, oh, like he always says like, oh, they definitely would have found a cure. Like they would have found a cure if they
he said that recently, which like,
yeah.
I personally don't care. I don't care if they would have found the cure or not within Ellie.
I just feel like he's making like a very strictly like moral. Like I really liked at the end of Last of Us 1, but even before the sequel came out, like it's very much like a thing like I think any dad would do. Like a dad probably would murder a whole fucking hospital of people if they know their child is gonna die right there, even if it's not morally correct. Like to them it is, right? And especially in a post-apocalyptic world where so much is already taken from you, and you don't know for sure if this cure is even going to work or whatever, because like they're dealing with like primitive equipment at this point. It's like, oh, is Ellie just going to die for nothing, right? And Joel doesn't know that. He doesn't want to take that risk. I always like that more dilemma. Like, it's not really a right choice. Like, I feel Druckmann really wants it to be like a right choice now. Like, Joel was 100% wrong. The world would have been cured. Everything would have been fine if Joel just didn't do what he did. And I feel like it kind of undermines the story of the ending of part one, because I found it more interesting, it being like this weird moral gray ground where like you don't know if it was going to work. For sure that Ellie is your kid at this point and you want to save her life, and all that stuff. So I don't know, I really don't like how they always try to like pin Joel as like the super bad guy. Like, what he did was bad, like 100%.
Yes.
It was a bad thing he did. But I do feel like there should be a little more nuance to it, rather than just like everyone just turns on him, like just for that. Like, again, I'm not saying what he did was right. I just like it that it's more of a moral, like let's understand from his perspective, like what the fuck he did it. So I don't know. Yes. I always find that weird, and like how Druckmann's always just like, no, for sure they would have found a cure, bro. Like, don't even worry about it. I'm like, all right. I just thought it takes away a little bit of nuance from the story, and I think he always tries to make the stories like gray on purpose. So I feel like just doing this feels a bit weird, but that's just me.
Yeah, I will never forget when I played The Last of Us in 2013, because I was also the same summer when Animal Crossing New Leaf came out. But those two games were just insane. And playing The Last of Us, especially, that was like pretty much everyone's like, oh my God, like this like fucking best PlayStation 3 game like ever. And obviously this is Naughty Dog's second IP on the console. So when you get to that ending, when you see that what you did as the player, by the way, what you fucking did, you ran through that hospital, you killed everyone to save Ellie, and you see him lie to Ellie's face, like, I swore. That is what happened. And she's like, okay, and then the game ends. That was so beautiful, because it makes you wonder, like, as the player, like, am I playing as the bad guy? It makes you wonder that gray area, like you're saying. And just like that mystery of the cure, like whether or not the cure would have worked, I don't give a fuck. I think the cure in and of itself is just like a whatever thing. I think that was something that would have been a purpose for Ellie, to help her really come to realization that like my life has a purpose and me dying is a good thing in this world, to help or potentially help other people. Whether the cure would have worked or not is not up for debate, in my opinion, because it doesn't matter. And I think it makes the conversation about did Joel do the right thing or not a lot more interesting than to just say, yeah, the cure would have worked. Like, with what fucking equipment and with what exact science you got here, right? So,
right, yeah. And I say that with the Dina thing, where it's like, they build up more of a relationship between Dina and Joel. And I thought it would do more of that. Maybe she'll be more on his side and understand, like, maybe she could be, because, Ellie's pretty against Joel killing all the Fireflies. It would have been interesting to have Dina be like, oh, but he was doing it for you, right? Like, it would have been interesting to have, like, the, like, different perspectives on what Joel did, instead of being like, oh, let's just dog on him, right? Again, I'm not saying what Joel did was right. Like, it was definitely a bad thing to kill, like, a whole hospital of people, but I think it's more interesting to have that conversation. But, yeah. Also, the fact that this show, like, I feel like it just overly explains stuff a lot of the time. Like, Ellie just being, like, because this has been brought up multiple times, but, I think just Ellie just sitting there, just shaking or whatever, and, like, Dina just supporting her. Maybe they talk a little bit, but it wasn't, like, Ellie being, like, I fucking murdered them. It felt fucking good. I just, like,
I left her there. I didn't kill her. I was like, okay, I'm like, okay, bro.
Like, I don't know. It just seems like, it feels like they're, like, spoon-feeding it to you for some reason. I'm like, why? Like, we know. So,
just rewatching, like, my live stream VODs and the sort of gameplay footage that I have on my computer. I'm like, man, I really should replay The Last of Us 2, which I recently bought it on the PS5 because I found it at Walmart for $25 randomly. Moving on. This is the episode where we finally get to see Ellie and Jesse's relationship. It's talked about before within the previous episode where Joel said you spend a lot of time together. So, they're obviously like best buds kind of thing. So we're able to flesh out Jesse's character, see a little bit of his backstory and sort of what his character views as like his purpose in Jackson. He talks about like this girl who came by, was like an artist or whatever. He was like, they weren't that good, but I bought every single one, just like falling for someone and then falling for you. I was like, okay, he really likes having that chase aspect of a relationship, but he gave that up because he realizes what his position at Jackson is and also what Jackson gave to him. It would feel wrong for him as a person to leave Jackson, especially because they kind of saved him or gave him a purpose within this new world, if you will. So, I really do like that side of Jesse and sort of having him be, I guess, like the opposite side of the coin where like Ellie is supposed to be like this selfish person who's just going after Abby. But then again, the writing and sort of her actions within the show don't necessarily reflect it.
Yeah, like I think it just goes around to like just how Ellie's written in this, being really flip floppy, wherever they want her to be like this cruel, heartless monster that's doing this thing that like is mostly just for her. She's being selfish, just like what she criticized Joel of doing, but saving her, being like, oh, you're not thinking of anyone else but yourself, and she's kind of doing the same thing. But again, it doesn't really work as well in this because just we've already talked about it, how Ellie's written in this show. But I do like Jesse's like sense of purpose and his little backstory there. To further like flesh him out with his like relationship stuff and how he feels about Dina. I'm pretty sure he said something about that in the game too, like how he feels about Dina. I like forgot. But just like I feel like he has a greater sense of his community in this. Like I think he always did in the game, but in this, like he's very like he cares a lot about Jackson and his future because Jackson helped him out when he was younger. Helped him found a place in this world, and he does care about the community a lot. And even later in the episode, we found out like he does like vote against like Ellie like doing this like mission to begin with. So it does show that he does care a ton about the community and will do the greater good while still care about his friends. He still wants to like overall benefit everyone in his community. I feel like it does flesh out his character quite a bit because I feel like in the game he was a cool character, and he also had that strong sense of like being more like a morally correct character. But I feel like the show does do a better job sort of like positioning him higher in like the city council or whatever the fuck, because that wasn't really a thing in the game. So yeah, I mean,
that just makes me wonder, like, what if he found out what Joel did, right? Like, when Joel, the selfish thing that Joel did, would he just hate Joel at that point?
Yeah,
or like, would he
imagine?
would he like understand a little bit? I don't know. But the other thing that I want to bring up is when Ellie wants to step in to save the Scar Kid. When this was happening, I was like, why is she trying to play the hero, right? Like, this is something that never really happens for Ellie. Obviously, if it's someone that she knows or something like that, like obviously with Dina or Tommy or whatever, like she will obviously help them out. And within the game, she will always put herself before anyone else because she wants to fucking die. Like she doesn't care about living as much as helping her friends. And when she like wants to put her life and sort of put their position on the line for this kid that they don't know, especially for a fucking Scar kid that they saw, like they saw what the Scars did and she wants to help them out. I don't know. It just felt so weird to have that scene, just to have this gotcha moment when she's arguing with Jesse and being like, you think you're a good guy, you think you're doing all of this other stuff, but you just let a kid fucking die. I was like, okay, yeah, like it was literally just for this gotcha moment, and I hate that.
Yeah. Again, and it's really weird because I feel like Game Ellie would definitely not do, like, she doesn't give a shit. Like, she wouldn't give a fuck. Like, she would just, like, kept going. And I just feel like unnecessary, like, drama just for the sake of drama to have this weird, like, moral compass Ellie has, even though she didn't have that in the game either. Again, it just keeps adding to, like, the wishy-washy nature of Ellie's character being like, oh, I'm going to do something morally good, and then something, like, immediately fucked up, like, afterward. I'm just like, what are we doing here? Like for Jesse, like Jesse is like, he is just following his own code. Like he's very like lawful good. Like I'm just going to do what, like I said before, he's going to do what's good for the community. And like, he's right where it's like, I'm not going to like fight this war that's not even our war to begin with. Like I'm just here to get you guys and fuck back home. Like why the fuck would I do any of this? like going after Abby isn't going to like solve anything. Obviously like he knows all of that. And I'm pretty sure he said that in the game too, but it's like, like who fucking cares? Like, I just want to go home and just get all of you guys and leave. So this whole kid thing with Ellie and stuff, the Scar Kid, I'm just like, I don't know. It just feels like this random scene just to have there. So maybe to show that Ellie still has good in her, even though, again, I don't feel like that's the point yet. Like they keep like jumping the gun with this stuff, and it just doesn't work because it just feels like really wishy-washy. And again, like you said, it feels like this weird gotcha moment to be like, yeah, the world sucks. Like we already know that.
Yeah.
So
it just seems like another thing that they're trying to spell out for the viewers of being like, hey guys, not everyone in this story is a good or bad guy. Like everyone has done some equally fucked up things, whether directly or indirectly. And I'm like, that was the point of the game. That was something that I think people had to fish out of the narrative and not see it at face value. So, just having that within the TV show, just being like, hey, yeah, like, Jesse, you're not a good guy at all. You let that kid die or whatever. And, I'm not a good person either, but at least I recognize that. I'm like, all right, yeah, like whatever kind of thing. And then when Jesse says that he voted no, I was like, whoa, what the hell? Because, I think they're really good friends. And I think him wanting to help his community is a good thing for his backstory, but I think here it might have been a little too much, especially since if he's trying to convince Ellie to find Tommy and not Abby, why would he escalate the situation in my eyes? Because I'm like, if you're trying to convince her to join you to find Tommy, why the fuck are you like, I voted no? Like, you're just asking to piss her off more. I don't know.
Yeah, also it feels like there's less sense for Tommy to like doing what he's doing anyway. Because in the game he was fucking just as mad as Ellie, and he was like going after like Abby and stuff. So him going like murdering like a bunch of people made more sense. For this, I'm like, why is he even doing this? Like, I thought he was just looking for them. Like, I don't even know why he's like going after them at this point. Like, a lot of it doesn't make any sense, like, because they're trying to change the story without really changing the story. So there's like a lot of weird like things they're like backtracking on, like the spores. Like they need Tommy to be doing the sniping thing and him also getting lost in there, even though it makes no sense anymore because Tommy didn't really have like a lot of urgency to do this anymore. Like, yeah, like he lost Joel as well, but he was like very distraught in the game, and like he also went into like a murderous rampage to do that. In the show, he's kind of like, I'm like a leader of this, like of Jackson, like I can't just do that. And the only reason they left is to find like Ellie and Dina and shit. So I'm like, why is he even doing this now? Like, it makes no sense. I don't know.
Yeah, he's a lot more level-headed within the show, which is a good thing in my opinion. Yeah, because I did rewatch the cutscenes where sort of Ellie is having a conversation with Tommy, and Ellie's like, I'm fucking going after them. Like, I don't care what you say. Is this you talking or is this Maria talking, trying to convince Ellie to stay? And I'm like, oh shit, like this is some solid writing. Maybe I do need to actually like replay the game again because, I think just the way that it was all structured really did make sense from a gameplay and also narrative perspective. But, this show just is trying to have all of these moments that the game originally had also, but it just doesn't make sense in the way that they're writing these characters. So yeah, and then fucking from here on out, it's just a weird hodgepodge mess. Like, I don't know why they had Ellie freaking go up to Scar Island. I was like, why is she here? And then she gets captured, and then she gets hanged for like a second, and then she's gone. And I'm like, okay, like,
dude, that felt so weird. Like, that just felt like, because that's what happens to Abby, doesn't it? Like, and then Lev saves her. And then they like do their whole little adventure. Like, I don't know. It felt like they're like you said, like setting up for season 3, but like it just seems so random. I'm like, they got her and they're just not gonna kill her because like other things are happening. I'm just like, what the fuck was that? Like that was not needed like at all. Like they could have shown all this stuff in the next season when Abby goes through that same exact situation. Like it just feels weird. I guess maybe it's to show parallels between different people, like people, individuals, and then Lev saved Abby. Like maybe that shows like a sense of hope in the world or something. I don't know. It just seems fucking weird. I don't know why it was included. It just seems like a thing to show like that Scars are also not good guys, because I feel like they already show that Scars are not good guys already in this season, but they showed them a little more sympathetic, I guess, in this season rather than in the game where they were just like crazy psycho cult people. So I don't know.
I think the behind the scenes thing, I forget who said it, but it was kind of just to like show that like the kids in the Scar sort of cult are just as violent as them, and also to show that like, hey, Ellie, like this is a sign for you to stop and go back kind of thing. But I'm like, I don't know. It's like whatever bullshit reason you're feeding me, I am just not buying it personally, because I'm just like, that was not a thing that was in the game. And also it just doesn't feel right within this show. Like, I get it. It's a storm. How is Ellie supposed to get the boat from there to the aquarium within one piece? Obviously, it would have been unrealistic. But another thing that was unrealistic, I don't know if you noticed this, Damian, but when fucking Ellie was like climbing up into the aquarium, there was like a yellow box, just like a game. I was like, oh my gosh, she's climbing on the yellow box just like a video game. Anyways, that was just a fun little detail that I noticed. But yeah, the entire aquarium scene. So this has been another point of controversy because they changed how Owen and Mel died. So first up, she's like walking around, shining the flashlight, not giving a fuck, not being sneaky at all. I was like, what are we doing here? I was just yelling at my fucking computer monitor the whole time I was watching it. But then when we get to the whole confrontation, I think at this point within the game, Ellie was intentionally trying to kill all of Abby's friends. Like, she did not give a fuck. Yeah. She did not give a fuck. But here she outright says, I will not kill you. I was like, what are we doing here? Is your objective just to kill Abby and not her friends? Because if you just kill Abby, that means her friends are also going to go after you. And if you're going after her friends already for information on Abby, that's not going to end well. So I don't know what this objective of like the revenge plot is, other than just getting us to where the game also ended, right? Because it feels like this revenge story is just not there. It feels like a side thing. And for Ellie to not be like as ruthless or sort of as willing to like kill them, and sort of have it be like an accident kind of thing, like a act of self-defense where it's like she had to shoot Owen because Owen was gonna fucking shoot her, and then the bullet somehow went right through Owen and shot Mel in the neck. Obviously, that scene was fucked up. It was very emotional, very powerful. I will not deny that, but I think them making it an accident, at first when I watched it, I was kind of like buying into it. I was like, oh, okay, like I kind of like this. But now that I think about it more, and now that I reflect on sort of like the story from the game to the show and sort of how it all comes together, yeah, I think that them just making Ellie a very like pacifist character, not even just like not as bloodthirsty and as vengeful as she was within the games, is just like, it's just such a missed opportunity. Because I get it, like Bella Ramsey has a baby face, but I think she could have put on that fucking anger and rage that we saw within the end of episode 5 as she was torturing and hurting Nora. I think we could have had that throughout the entire season, but instead we had something that was much more lighter, much more Ellie and Dina adventures, and not something that I think a lot of people just did not like. And I think a lot of anger that people have for the show just reflects into other parts of it that just doesn't really make sense. Because I fucking argue with people on TikTok all the goddamn time about it within my comment section.
I mean, it's just Last of Us. Like, I feel like Last of Us gets really heated for some reason. But, and I'm not opposed to having it do changes. Like, I think all the changes in season 1 were pretty good, and I think complemented the story. Same thing with like episode 6 with that added scene with Joel's dad. Like, I think that was a really good compliment to just the overall story. Like, it doesn't really change a bunch, but it just adds more context, and I think that's good. But for here, they're fundamentally changing Ellie's character from what it was with the game. And again, I feel like if they did a different side of her, like sort of like depression or whatever, I think it would have been good. It didn't have to be vengeful, like rage if they didn't want to. But they kind of are going like both ways with it, where they want her to be like sympathetic and like not murder a bunch of people, but also wants her to do it at the same time because that's what the game did. So I feel like they needed to do like bigger rewrites with how the structure of the show was going to go, rather than just kind of like follow it beat to beat, but change a bunch of stuff and then like kind of like butcher Ellie's character in the process. Because the story beats she went through in the game definitely don't reflect this new Ellie. Like, she's just doing everything on accident. It feels like she's like murdering people just like in self-defense. And I feel like, well, what was the point of her going over to the aquarium then? Because in the game she was like super dead set. Like, once she thought Abby would be there to begin with, but she was gonna kill them anyway. She's like, I'm gonna fucking kill you guys because like you killed my dad, I'm just gonna murder you all too. They even took out, like, she didn't even kill their dog in this one. Apparently now we're not gonna do that too. Like, I think all these things just show like how much, like how far gone she's been. And obviously she still feels remorse when she does kill what's her face, Mel, right? Yes. Mel with the baby in the game, because she's like, oh shit, like, that's going a little too far. But I feel like in this is like, it was like a complete accident. Like, she didn't even mean to do it, right? So it kind of just comes off as like trying to be sympathetic, and it just like try to have your cake and eat it too. And I'm just like, it's just like not working. So yeah.
I think people were wrong about The Last of Us 2, and they were very, very harsh on it when it came out. I'm sure now that people have now seen what a mess season 2 is, if they go back and play the games, they'll be like, okay, you know what? Maybe Druckmann was cooking. Maybe Last of Us Part 2 was actually good. I don't know. But, I just feel like this whole revenge plot of trying to kill Abby, but indirectly killing her friends, as it feels, right? Like, she straight up says, I will not kill you guys. I'm like, I don't know if she's lying or not, obviously. Like, we don't know exactly what her intentions are, even if, like, the sort of showrunners or the writers confirm, like, she was lying there. I think that I don't buy it. I don't buy that, like, she didn't want to kill her friends, because at the end, when Abby comes back, by the way, when Abby fucking goes into the goddamn auditorium and she first up shoots Jesse, obviously that is a canon event. Yeah. And then when Ellie's just begging for her life, she's fucking pleading for it. She's like, no, please don't. I didn't mean to kill your friends. I was like, whoa, what are we doing here? Because I feel like in that instance, in the game, it was very different, because in the game, I don't think Ellie knew that Joel killed Abby's dad. All she knows is that she killed Joel, probably likely for what happened at the hospital, but she doesn't know that it was her dad. So, just for her to, within this show to just be like, no, please, I didn't mean to hurt your friends. I'm just like, I don't know. What are we going for here?
Yeah, it just seems like they just want Ellie to be more likable, but in every aspect, they just make her a really confused character that doesn't know what she really wants to be. And in the end, it just makes her seem like kind of like a dummy for like doing anything. And so she's constantly going by herself, but she's clearly not competent in this version of the show where she could do that. She never really takes charge. She's always like whining about stuff and just like it just doesn't feel like Game Ellie was very independent and she like had a mission. And she was fucking going through it, right? Like
yes.
she
was
really
gonna get that shit done.
Yeah, like she didn't need anyone's help. She showed that she was very capable of like doing whatever had to be done, and she was definitely like aiming to kill all of Abby's friends to get to her, and to show her the same pain that she brought to Ellie herself, right? So it was definitely like this. Obviously the cycle of revenge thing. And, if you add any sympathy to that, I feel like it kind of breaks that message. So I don't know. And, just the no, it's just
and then
like,
it cuts
okay.
to black. It is just so funny to see people clip it and just sort of make comments about it or whatever, like it was definitely like a very jarring cut because like I said, Ellie doesn't plead for her life within the game. And I think within season 1, she wasn't necessarily like that either, and it just feels like that they just did a complete 180 with her character. But to those people that are saying that like the season should have ended there, I think that would have been such a bad fucking cliffhanger, to be honest. I think that would have been a terrible way to end the season. I thought it was going to end
there because I saw that clip before I watched the episode. I'm like, oh fuck, is that how it ends? Like, but yeah.
No, but they gave us a little bit of a tease for season 3 to show that we are now going back in time to show the first day of Seattle for Abby and sort of where it leads before they meet again at the theater. So yeah, I don't know. This entire season is just a fucking mess. I honestly think that possibly they should have done the dual storylines with Ellie and Abby going side by side. Just because, what's it called? My girlfriend brought up like Game of Thrones. Like I'm pretty sure you haven't watched Game of Thrones, Damian, but I watched a little bit. Yeah. And that they go between like different factions and like across the fucking like world or whatever between like different storylines, and they're able to keep up with it. And then when everything comes together and when everything clashes, that's when it's fucking hype and that's when it's exciting. And I think The Last of Us Part 2 could have done that for The Last of Us Season 2 and Season 3. I think that they could have done the back and forth storylines. Maybe we see, a scene with fucking Abby and Owen, and then, they split off, and then whatever happens within Abby's story, then eventually Ellie meets them or whatever, like there could have been ways to do it simultaneously, but I think they went to just keep it the way that it did to make it simple, I guess. But I don't know. It just felt like this season as a whole was just not what I was expecting. And I think cutting it down to 7 episodes in total, not even giving ourselves an extra episode to really flesh things out, really give us, not a faithful adaptation, but just a fucking good adaptation, right? Like, I feel like this season has just been such a mess and really not what a lot of people wanted for it. And a lot of it has to do with the writing.
Yeah, I mean, I feel the same way. I thought for sure that we're going to do like sort of like a dual thing where it's like the flip-flop between Abby and Ellie.
Because they show Abby so early on, right? Like,
yeah. I thought they were really going to do that, and like it'll be like an interesting way to tell the story, to have it like simultaneously happen at the same time. And then maybe I don't know if they were able to fit all of it in like one season. And then maybe it still would have needed 4 seasons. I don't fucking know. But like, I think it would have been a more fresh take on Last of Us Part 2 and get people more invested in the their crew, like the Wolf crew and Ellie's crew at the same time. Obviously, there was still issues with just Ellie's character in general. Like, if they were going to keep it like this, it still would have been like not super great. But I think it would have been good to have like further context and stuff. Obviously, like, especially, maybe it would have worked more because Ellie is more like sympathetic in this. And when you play through Abby's section where you're playing as bloodthirsty Ellie, you get to learn more about these characters, and then you feel more sympathetic. So then you as a player feel more shitty for killing all of these people to begin with, because they're also just people trying to get by, right? But this show kind of like loses that to begin with because Ellie's already more sympathetic. So I think it wouldn't have hurt to just have them both being side by side, right? Because it would have been like most of the kills Ellie does is like basically by accident to begin with. Like, Nora was probably the only one that she like definitely killed 100%. But yeah, the rest of it just feels like very weird. But yeah, I don't know. I think overall, this season was definitely like a lot worse than season 1. Like, And it sucks too, because I think Ellie's segment is the weakest part of Last of Us Part 2, strangely enough, at least for me. Like, I think that segment was just like a little too long-winded. Again, I like how they did certain things, like Ellie being bloodthirsty, like, you know, the game isn't really supposed to be like fun, quote unquote, like just doing awful things or whatever. But it really does get you in the mindset of how Ellie's feeling at the same time. And I think that would translate it well into TV if they did do it faithfully like that. But instead, they tried to fix the story and, like, as a result, kind of just muddied the original vision of the game, which doesn't really help very much. And, you know, I do agree that I think Abby's story is a bit more eventful and I think just a better story to begin with. So I'm interested to see how they adapt it with this one. But yeah, this season has definitely been kind of like a mixed bag, if I'm going to be totally honest. I think a lot of the additions they added were okay, but a lot of like the rewrites and like changes to the story just weren't it for me. So
yeah, especially because, you know, they cut out a lot of like the action sequences. You know, I feel like throughout most of Ellie's story, you're fighting off, sneaking around, trying to take down WLF members or scars or whatever. You don't get any of that shit within season 2. Throughout all 7 episodes, there's not one sequence where Ellie or Dina are sneaking around intentionally killing people. You know, like there is one scene within the TV station where they're trying to sneak around and get out, and then they get caught, and then Dina has to kill them. It's not even Ellie that kills the one WLF soldier. It's fucking Dina. And then every single time Ellie gets into like a fight or whatever, she loses. Like the first one with the infected, with that stalker, she fucking loses. And then obviously with the whole other stalkers with Dina, she tells Dina to fucking run. And then it's only when Jesse comes in to save them, and then Scar's hiding again. You know, like she never fucking wins. She doesn't win this season. She never has a moment to shine or show her violence or anything like that, which is why when we get to that Nora scene, although it's good, it's well acted, it's nicely shot, it doesn't hold any fucking weight because we haven't seen how violent Ellie is, you know?
Right.
And you know, it's the same thing with Owen and Mel. You know, when that scene happens, you know, it's still emotional, it's still tearful, tearjerker, if you will, with the whole, you know, everything, considering everything that happens there, you know, it just doesn't feel earned or sort of deserved, if you will. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know, like I already brought up, as much as Ellie, like, and again, nothing on Bella Ramsey's acting or whatever. Like, I think it's pretty fine for the most part. It really is just like how it's written and stuff that really like bothers me. And that's kind of like the main crux of it, because Ellie is such an important part of this story because she's like the main character. So
yes,
when you don't have that part written well, the whole thing kind of falls apart. You know, I think Dina's written pretty well. You know, I think like Jesse was written pretty well. Like everything else was like pretty okay. Like Abby was pretty good. She doesn't show up much, but you know, I think she's pretty good as well. As well as just great, Ellie. Yeah, it's mostly just Ellie. Like, and again, it wasn't because of the acting. At least I don't think so. I think it is more just so of like, I don't know what the fuck they're doing in terms of writing with like what they want from her. So yeah, it's kind of a mess. Hopefully season 3 is better. But again, we'll have to wait 2 years for that, apparently. And by then, I'm just like, does anyone even care at this point? So it's just like, yeah, it's unfortunate to see like this, mostly because I want it to be better, because I think Last of Us Part 2 is like, it's good. Like, you know, I'm a little more positive about it than other people are, mostly because I played it like way later. But, you know, I would give it like an 8. Like, it's pretty good. And I think there was a lot of segments that could have fixed in Ellie's part, but that just didn't fucking happen. So, yeah.
Yeah, and there's kind of like no way to really rewrite it. I mean, maybe they could rewrite it, maybe retcon certain things with the next season, but next season's mostly going to be about Caitlin Deaver's Abby, which I'm kind of excited for. You know, I want to see what these other characters are going to be able to bring to the table and sort of make their tragic end at Ellie's hands sort of more sad, if you will. Right, so,
yeah.
Yeah, you know, I guess we'll just have to wait and see when that happens. Is there anything else you would like to add, good Sarah?
No, that's everything.
All right, so thank you guys for listening to the Travis and Damian podcast, episode 164. We'll see you guys 2 weeks from now with another episode.
Later.